Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentle people.
Hey, here's something interesting I just noticed.
What's that?
When you had our opening graphic up there,
Yeah.
and the music was playing,
Yeah.
and I was singing along,
Yeah.
and of course the mic is muted,
Yeah.
but I noticed something I never noticed before.
What's that?
If I sing loudly and long enough, right above my picture, a little whatchamacallit, drop down says, mic is muted, to remind me. So I'm over here going, babies have no kneecaps. And then the little thing goes, your mic is muted, idiot.
It's because you were singing the song incorrectly as well.
Well, I know. I did that on purpose, actually. I was repurposing the lyrics.
There you
go. But I do that every week, and I never noticed that.
If there was only that feature on Yoko Ono's mic.
Well, it would be, oh, I. There's only so many ways you can sing Ayo.
I always wanted to do a Yoko Ono song at karaoke.
All right.
Then just run out the front door.
Yeah, wait for all the drinks that people are going to be buying me.
That's going to be an open.
Or buying themselves because they've thrown theirs at you.
Yoko karaoke.
Yoko karaoke. There you go.
I think you folks going to remember this one from 1994.
Karaoke.
Little Yoko.
A little bit of Yoko.
Little
Little bit of Yoko.
I want to do the
I
want to do the 1 hour and 45-minute film of The Fly, and just.
I would pay money to see that.
Actually,
I would. I really would.
Well, there you go. That's my next gig.
All right. Next time we're all in Denver, we're going to the karaoke.
Harry Lug Nutz does the music of Yoko Ono solo.
So yeah, exactly. With any instrumentation or just by yourself?
Well, I don't know. Did she have any instrumentation? I'm not quite sure.
I believe there was. I mean,
I'm gonna bring my Vitamix and my new DeWalt drill, and
or you know what? Bring a tambourine, but take like one of the little cymbals out of each thing.
Tambourine with no rattles in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just one rattle, so that instead of them jangling against each other, it just goes like.
Perfect. That'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to consult Yoko on that.
Yeah. Or you know what? I could accompany you on hi-hat.
Oh, we don't. I mean, you can accompany me, but we don't want to bring any sort of form to this.
Well, I would use
just all avant-garde.
I would use invisible sticks.
Well, there you go.
In the spirit of you. Did you guys ever see the? I imagine you have the Andy Kaufman doing "You'll Never Walk Alone" on hi-hat singing.
Yeah.
I don't know that I actually did.
Oh, it's such a great. Just for the look on Robert Goulet's face, looking at this madman screaming out, "You'll never walk alone," and beating on this hi-hat. That's great stuff.
It's too bad Andy Kaufman wasn't around to do the interpretive music of Yoko Ono with me.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
I'm sort of, he's a big. I feel like if you can't entertain an audience, Andy Kaufman it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just
that works.
Absurd them to death.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, folks.
Well, that's our Yoko Ono and Andy Kaufman.
Tune in Sunday morning, sometime between 11 and 1 Denver time, and we'll be doing our Super Bowl special.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right, what do we have to talk about?
Are you going to share your Super Bowl chili recipe with everyone on Sunday?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Got a different one this year than I did last year. So
really,
I've done it before, but I didn't make it for Super Bowl last year. So it's different a little bit different. But I'll go over that. Yeah, we're going to do our Super Bowl morning show, which will be afternoon in the East Coast and morning still in Denver. But it'll be fun. We'll have a lot of prop bets, and we'll have a lot of weird stats and schedule anomalies, I'm sure, and some stuff like that. And we'll chili recipes. So.
Hopefully, we know by then who's been arrested with the hookers and cocaine the night before the.
Well,
Super
there'll be
Bowl.
several more, I'm sure. So
Yeah, we should have a good idea about the police blotter at that point.
I agree. It's a good time for that. You got to wait till the last. We also might know if either of the tight ends are going to play by then.
Yeah, maybe.
we might know. They might not know until game time. So
or after the game. Yeah.
All right, when the game's over, they'll let us know if they played.
That's right.
Right. Anyway, but I just got to. I guess we could start with a little bit of baseball. A little bit of baseball. No, anyway, I'm not going to sing that song.
Baseball.
They solved everything, right? They got it all worked out.
It's all done. Well, actually, somebody tweeted today, and it actually got a really big buzz, and it was obviously clearly a joke. But it said that Rob Manfred resigned. So I saw the tweet come across and a push notification. I jumped right on that. I'm like, what? But and clearly so did everybody else that had that notification pop up. But no, it is unfortunately false. So
yeah,
he did not resign. So, but the good news is they're no closer to signing an agreement. I mean, is that good news? Yeah, they basically announced, I don't know, maybe an hour ago that it's imminent that spring training will be delayed. At least spring training will be delayed.
Yeah. Well, now the owners are getting together tomorrow, or was it today or something?
Today, I think it was today.
Today they're getting together to start talking again, and
well, that's nice of them.
You know what? It's becoming obvious that basically, like every negative thing that we could possibly have thought about this going into it, we were right.
Absolutely right. 100%.
Neither one of these groups are really that interested yet. They don't feel pressure yet.
Yep.
And there's a couple of things which may end up being the deal breakers.
There's a lot of things that could be the deal breakers.
Right, but I mean the big two that as I look at it are the 2-year arbitration and the I guess the fund.
Yes.
For players that aren't making that much on their first contract and play
first
really
contract,
well.
Right? Stimulus plan.
Yeah, which I was a certain the owners wanted $10 million and the players wanted like $110 million in the fund, and then the players came back and went, okay, well we'll do, or it was 105, and they said, well, we'll do 100. So they reduced it by $5 million.
$5 whole million.
Yeah. So, but if you look at it that way, that was only a few weeks ago.
Less than 5%.
If they just keep going down by fives, maybe they'll get to like 20, and the owners will go, okay, we'll do 20, and that'll take like
3 months,
41 weeks.
Yeah. So no baseball this year because they can't make a deal on the fund.
So it would, it'd take like 20 weeks or something.
Yeah, and then nobody will make any money this year, but that's okay.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing and what I'm reading is that those are the two big stumbling blocks, which the league / owners have said, well, we're not moving on either of one of these.
Right. Well, let me read you this. I don't know if you saw what Max Scherzer tweeted the other day. He said because I think Rob Manfred or some of the owners or somebody asked for a federal judge to mediate.
Right.
And the Players Association said, yeah, no. And I think they turned him down anyway. But Max Scherzer tweeted, he says, we don't need mediation because what we are offering to Major League Baseball is fair for both sides. And he continued by saying, we want a system where threshold and penalties don't function as caps, allows younger players to realize more of their market value, make service time manipulation a thing of the past, and eliminate tanking as a winning strategy. Those are what that's what the Players Association wants, those items. So
yeah.
But I digress. Who knows? I mean,
do you have the when did we? What were all the dates that we all chose for when the opening day is this year? Do you have that handy?
You know what? I don't. Or maybe
we
I
have
do.
We have to look that up.
I'll have to look that back
for next week's show.
We'll look at for next week's show. Yeah.
Or I think next week is officially when pitchers and catchers would report. Is
next week, next Wednesday, I believe, is when they would report.
Okay, so let's look at that next Wednesday and see. I think we all picked a day when we think opening day is going to actually be.
Hey, we did. It's written down somewhere. I'll have to find it. So we'll do it next week. Yeah.
All right, cool. Jimmy, look that up.
Jimmy,
go through John's notes and find that. So no closer, and things are not going to start on time. And you know who doesn't have a sense of urgency about this as well as the players and the owners?
Rob Manfred.
Me. I don't
don't,
really,
do you?
I don't really care at this point.
Well, I kind of want baseball to start.
Well,
when it should start.
yeah, but not right. I don't care about it right now. Still, I mean, we can
I'll
get
care
through,
about it. I'll care about it next week once the Super Bowl's over.
Ah,
That's
we
what
can
I'm gonna
get
care
through June. I can actually watch the NBA playoffs without having to be, to make
So
a choice
condense
between that and
baseball down from June to November.
July
so-
1st. How about we open on July 1st?
Okay.
July, August, September, October. 5-month season instead of 6. You fit in as many games as you can. Start the playoffs October 20th.
No.
Why not? Isn't that
Have
kind of how
16
it goes now?
have 16 games like an NFL season.
Yeah, there you go. Problem
Well,
solved.
if you start in June, you could probably squeeze 82 in like an NBA or an NHL season. So
Yeah, get half the season. Yeah.
Mhm.
Or you know what? Maybe just have like half the teams play all their games at home. Play 82 games and everybody plays at home.
and everybody plays at home.
And then the other half of the league all plays nothing but on the road.
There you go. Fun. Well, let me ask you a question. Of the 4 major sports, which is the oldest?
Baseball.
Are we including lacrosse?
Of course, baseball.
Yes.
Major League Baseball is the oldest, professional sporting.
Right.
Something tells me they're not going to do that.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Probably not. Probably.
Well, let me ask you guys this.
Sure. What?
Of the 4 major sports, which one is the most fucked up?
In what capacity?
In the way that it runs and operates and fails to do those things on a regular basis.
Well, they all have their problems.
They all have their problems. Yeah,
They do.
I think.
Major League Baseball.
I go with baseball.
Yeah.
The NFL's been pretty good, right? Of recently.
No.
I
mean, to a point, there's
Well,
issues, but
yeah, but
globally.
when was their last strike? When did they last have a work stoppage?
87.
Okay, so that's 30-something years ago.
Yeah, 35 years ago. This coming season. Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I have a hard time feeling much sympathy for either the players or the owners.
Well, in the NFL and the NBA, the players certainly. There's not as many players, and the players certainly have wrestled way more control away from ownership. I think in baseball, there's been more equity, and it's certainly more balanced, but it's not tilted as dramatically in the players' direction as it is in, I think, those other 2 sports.
Agreed.
Let me ask you if you agree with something that I heard Harold Reynolds say. He said that the longer things are take to get started, the worse it's going to be for some of these older players who are maybe not going to get jobs because the longer spring training is delayed.
Right.
You're going to end up with having some younger guys kind of take their place, perhaps. And he finds that very ironic because a lot of what this is all about is more equity for the younger players.
Guys. Yeah.
And so not only are they going to get that if the Players Association has their way, but he says the longer this goes on, the worse it is for these veteran players. Some of these guys who might have gotten a shot, or at least to go to maybe a full spring training and compete, are maybe not going to get quite all those opportunities to show themselves. And some of them are going to be out of a job when they might have had a job if work started on time. You guys agree with that?
Well, I mean, look, that sometimes leads to some false optimism too. I mean, look at the Jay Bruce situation with the Yankees. And, it's like, I think sometimes, especially people that haven't played a lot the previous year, they sometimes come into spring training, not only hot, but doing well against the lesser competition. It maybe prolongs some spring training hope and some roster changes.
Right.
I mean, it's just, at least in recent years, it's like, oh, Troy Tulowitzki is going to be the starting shortstop for the Yankees. Jay Bruce is going to be the starting first baseman. So maybe it cuts down a little bit on that. I think if you're talented enough to be in baseball and you're a veteran player, you're going to be playing.
Yeah. Well, that also actually, that's a good point. And it makes me think of something Richard Neer said, which he said, first however many days or weeks of spring training, that's, a lot of those veterans have an advantage, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right, because what he said was, well, everybody can hit the fastball,
Mhm.
and the pitchers,
They're not-
they're not throwing a lot of breaking balls early on in spring training, and some of these guys look great. And then after that first, week or 10 days or whatever, they start to throw in more breaking stuff and more nasty stuff, start to really throw some of those great pitches that they can throw. And then some of these veterans look lost. But you're right, it does kind of give them a boost early on. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's enough to carry them to getting a job, at least to start the season.
True.
They're literally not up to speed too when it comes to the fastball or any movement on whether it's cutters or any other power pitches. So yeah, it's and not all, but most veterans, it seems like a trend. They seem to come out of the gate, especially if they know that they're going to be a bubble, selection for the roster. They seem to come out of the gate pretty aggressively and with better numbers than usually translate into the regular season. So who knows? Watching spring training and pitchers and catchers, I'll be honest, I'll start watching baseball in July, regardless of whether they start in May or it's too long of a season, and it's too, I don't know. I just don't have that time to sit there and watch baseball in April and May. I just don't. I follow it. I just can't. All of the drama of the preseason, all these literal inside baseball stuff, it means absolutely nothing.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I'll pay attention a little bit I'll pay attention to the news of it and what's going on.
Yeah,
but I'll pay attention to a little bit of spring training, like on occasion. If I'm fortunate enough to be available to turn on SNY or whatever and watch a Mets preseason game or at least highlights later on. I'll check it out on occasion during spring training and that. But I do watch opening day. I usually go the second game every year to Citi Field. And I watch baseball. Like I'll start maybe mid-May, falling off a little bit, and then pick it back up again near the All-Star break. Not that I stop watching, just not as much as I have been. But I usually watch from day one. I watch opening day every year.
Well, yeah, opening day is different. It's more of a ritualistic thing. It's kind of a party.
Right.
It's the height of the season for some teams.
This is true.
Let me know when you get going, boys, and I'll put you on while I'm cooking dinner like I usually do.
There you go. So, anyway, all right. Well, a couple of things in baseball really quick. I have two things. One, obviously, the Mets announced that they're going to bring back Old Timers Day this year. So right now, and then there's 40 former 40.
So Jay Bruce will play.
There you go. 40 former players are scheduled.
He won't start though.
Yeah. No. 40 former players are scheduled to attend the Mets opening Mets Old Timers Day. It's going to be Saturday, August 27th. So late in the season, obviously, but
obviously a day game.
Here are some,
probably be
because
snowing that
half
day.
will be sleeping by.
That's right.
Now here's some of
it's
the
a 10 a.m. game, so they can make it to the 4 o'clock buffet.
Here's some of the featured names that are going to be attending at the moment. Frank Thomas, John Matlack, Mookie Wilson, Bobby Ojeda, Andy Chavez. He's gonna make another catch over the wall and lose the game, but never mind. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
If he makes a catch over the wall, I'd be very impressed.
Ron Swoboda, Felix Milan, Hojo, Turk Wendell, and Michael Piazza. So there you go.
Piazza's not that old. How old is Piazza? 53?
53. Yeah. But I mean, it's old. I mean, it's Old Timers Day. Relatively.
Yeah,
I mean,
Why is Frank? I mean, how many years did Frank Thomas play for the Mets?
6 months, I think.
Yeah, but I was going to say 6 weeks. What is he just living in New York now? And this is more convenient.
He might have been
I suppose.
He's trying trying to sell more Chinese boner
Herbal,
pills.
Yeah, there's a boner pill convention at the Javits Center. And
There's a
that
boner pill
weekend, and
convention.
he's like,
It's a boner pill convention at LaGuardia Airport
That's
Marriott.
right. Yeah. There you go.
He's gonna go across the road.
With his schedule.
in the old Microsoft office
right.
display area at the airport.
Yeah, it's micro today. It's micro hard with the big hurt.
Yeah.
Frank Thomas.
Frank Thomas.
Is that a donut in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
You're just happy to see me. There you go. 20 minutes. Yeah, there you go. Another intro. I just got to write the times down. That's also.
Yeah, there you go.
So I have to go search for them later.
Maybe he's gonna give everybody his snake venom before the old timers games.
He could do that.
Uh-huh.
He could do that. Right.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they'll all go out there and be swinging the bats.
Well, at least something. At least their wives will be paying attention.
There you go. Anyway, all right. All right, and I get this. This popped up.
No pun intended.
No pun intended at all. I just glossed right over that.
Speaking of Frank Thomas.
Speaking of Frank Thomas,
This
this popped up on my Instagram the other day, and I want to ask both of you. I'm going to give you 5 Mets pitchers.
Is this the quiz?
No. That's just a kind of an extra bonus one.
Extra bonus test.
a boner quiz.
That's a
Five
bonus.
Mets pitchers.
5 Mets pitchers. All right.
All right.
And all right. This is their being hypothetical here. This is their staff, and they're all in their prime. What order are you putting them in?
Ooh, okay.
All right.
Well, is this just to start the season or
I mean, whatever. Just who's your number 1 pitcher? 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So here we go. I'll give you them. DeGrom, Dwight Gooden.
Oh, yeah. Let me pretend to write these down.
Write them down. There you go.
DeGrom, is that Philip DeGrom or
That
Jacob
would be
DeGrom?
Joey DeGrom.
Joey. Okay.
DeGrom, Gooden.
DeGrom, Gooden, Seaver, Pedro Martinez.
See, that's a tough one. How long was he with the Mets?
He was the Mets for a few years, but
it
I'm
was
saying
early
they're all in
his
their
career.
prime.
Yeah.
And he pitched well. I mean,
I know he did.
So, but they're all in their prime. So DeGrom, Gooden, Seaver,
In their prime with the Mets, or in their
prime.
Okay.
Their prime.
Gotcha.
In their prime. DeGrom, Gooden, Seaver, Martinez, and Max Scherzer. Who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that with those guys right there? Who are you doing? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I want to craft the rotation.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay. I'll sing a little bit while you do that.
Well,
I got it.
All right.
I'm not sure where to place the lefty.
All right. Well, it depends on the team he's playing, right? And with their batting order.
No, I mean the lefty pitcher because
There's only one lefty, right?
No, there's no lefties.
Oh, that's right. Is Pedro? That's right. Yeah.
Pedro's right.
All right-handers.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So-
in their prime.
In their prime. Who's going first?
Should I go first?
Sure, since you know.
Since I'm not going to put much thought into it.
Yeah, since you're not going to put much thought into it.
All right.
Since you must have some bad feelings about one or two of them.
Not really.
All right.
All right. I put Doc first.
Doc's 1. Yeah.
I put Seaver second.
Mm-hmm.
I put DeGrom third.
All right.
I put Pedro 4.
And Max 5.
And I put Mad Max in the 5 hole.
You're right. You did not put any thought into
All right.
I am consistent.
That's
There
right.
you go. There's nothing but consistent. Harry?
I'm going to go Seaver.
All righty.
I'm thinking of this as postseason in their prime.
Okay.
All right. I'm going Seaver,
Mhm.
Pedro,
Mm-hmm.
DeGrom,
Mm-hmm.
Scherzer, and then I'm rounding back up with Gooden. So basically, you've got. So if you go into the next series and you win, you got Gooden potentially either right before Seaver again or starting the next series. So whatever
Okay.
Seaver, Seaver, Martinez, DeGrom, Scherzer, and Gooden.
There you go. All right. So Pete's Pete is Gooden, Seaver, DeGrom, Martinez, Scherzer, and Harry is Seaver, Martinez, DeGrom, Scherzer, Gooden. There you
We
go.
had DeGrom in common.
Yeah.
We have DeGrom is in common. Yes.
Definitely a
DeGrom.
mid-rotation guy
You have
on
DeGrom
this
in.
list.
I mean,
DeGrom in common.
DeGrom.
probably Pedro and Seaver. Seaver especially have the most postseason success in big games. Obviously, you don't want to drop DeGrom down too much, and I love Gooden. I like taking the pressure off him a little bit.
There you go. Not bad. I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of these guys in any of the positions, right?
No.
It's kind of a
just start whoever.
Could you imagine this rotation, all 5 of these guys in their prime, on any team, Mets or otherwise? This is your starting rotation for pitchers. Could you imagine a team?
The weird thing with this is that I don't think of Scherzer or Pedro as being Mets yet. I mean, even if Scherzer plays another 4 years, I don't know if I'll ever, unless he has a spectacular year and the Mets win 2 World Series. I'm not sure I think of either of them as Mets, but yeah, the other 3, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
No, of course.
I agree.
When you think of Tom Seaver, you don't think of a Red. You think of a Met. Obviously DeGrom's only a Met. When you think of Gooden, do you think of a Yankee?
No.
You think of a Met. Martinez, though, I mean, he played several years for the Mets.
He played for the Expos too. I mean, he's a Red Sox.
Yeah.
And Scherzer, you only think of him as a Dodger, right?
Yeah, that's true. Scherzer's I guess the Nationals. I mean,
I would think that would be his first and foremost. So actually, if you look at my list, I put the first 3 pitchers, the real Met pitchers.
You did.
1, 2, and 3.
You did.
And then phony hanging on.
Well, Martinez couldn't wait to get out of there, and
phony and hanging on.
Scherzer was just like, "You're going to give me how much for how many years?"
He also ran, so he never won anything in their careers with the Mets. Well,
that's a long list of people.
That's true. But
and when you say never won anything, that's I
said anything with the Mets.
Anything.
But I mean,
we have to see what Scherzer does.
Oh yeah, I mean Scherzer, jury's out on Scherzer. Martinez had played, he pitched very well for the Mets.
Yeah, no, I like all these guys. I have nothing against any of these guys.
So, anyway.
I mean, Pedro is a Red Sox, a rival of the Yankees, so that's good.
There you go. This is true. All right. Couple other sad notes in baseball. Just reported, not an hour ago. Jeremy Giambi passed away today at 47. No information, no details. But that's sad. Jason Giambi's obviously younger brother. And I think Jason's 51. So Jeremy was 47. And Pete, you had some stats on the other gentleman.
The other Giambi or the other?
No, the other sad news yesterday.
Oh, Gerald Williams. Yeah.
Gerald Williams. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know what happened to his stats.
So
but he was probably best known for being with the Yankees.
Yankees, yeah.
Thought very highly of. I know there were a number of guys who came out and talked about him. Not as a player, as a great clutch hitter. Jeter, I talked about him as a mentor, especially. And I forget who was telling the story about Jeter's rookie year. He was, taking some guff from the elder statesmen on the team, or the veterans, and was getting a little bit upset about it. And Gerald Williams took him aside and took him out to dinner and had a talk with him and said, "Don't let it get to you," and that sort of thing. And there were a few other players who talked about him being a mentor, and just a good all-around guy, and passing away at 55 years old, which, it seems insane.
Yeah.
Sad.
Completely. Yeah. Well, rest easy, both of those gentlemen. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, if we could, though.
Sure.
I'd like
do anything we want.
I'd like to end our baseball segment, unless you have anything else.
No.
On maybe a high note.
Fair enough.
Or something positive.
I agree with that. Go for it.
Is there a a first
We're
batting instructor that has been added to.
We're gonna dance. We're gonna dance a little bit. That's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Listen, we all know
You're starting.
We all know this country is great, right? Greatest country in the world and all
Sure.
that stuff.
Of course.
Well, one of the reasons it's great
is
that apparently, if like a hooker asks you to beat her up and you do,
If a hooker asks you to beat her up,
and you do, or in other words, if that's part of your agreement,
okay,
maybe beat her up is the wrong rough sex.
there you
But that's your thing.
Let's go. Let's go with that. If a
and I don't-
hooker asks
actually,
for rough sex,
whether
there
it's
you
a
go.
hooker or whether it's just someone you meet in a bar,
right?
Yeah,
if she
I'm
wants some
gonna
rough
abstain
sex,
from
you
this
want some rough
conversation.
sex, and you have some rough sex, and then she decides she's mad about it and wants to charge you,
Yeah.
it's not going to stick. Here's the good news. Trevor Bauer will not face any criminal charges on sexual assault accusations.
There you go.
according
However,
to the Los Angeles County District Attorney announcing yesterday.
Well,
I like you, Harry. Really
I
didn't
know.
know where he was going.
yeah, and I'm not sure. I want to go on the record as saying I don't agree with the assessment.
Well, I'm kind of being a little bit facetious.
Yeah, If Pete is Joe Rogan, I will be the fact checker here. She was not a hooker.
Yeah, I know she wasn't a hooker. I was thinking of another case, but that was.
And the difference between consensual activities and leaving somebody having to go to the fucking hospital is pretty ridiculous. So I don't know. I can't wait for Trevor Bauer to step up to the plate the first time back. Because if you thought Altuve, I think somebody's got to step up and send one into his grill. So look, the court of law is the court of law, but it just sounds like he's getting away here with he lost a year of his career or almost a year of his career. So we shall see. I am going to be very interested as to where the Dodgers
are in this.
Because there's one thing I will say about the Dodgers is they don't have a very long leash when it comes to these type of things, at least recently.
Fair enough.
Here's the actual good news. And the Dodgers releasing a statement saying Major League Baseball is continuing their investigation, which they are, and they won't have any comment until it concludes. Now, baseball can basically do what they want. They have their own investigation. He does not have to be criminally charged in order for them to take steps. And honestly, all jokes aside, hopefully they will, because it seems like this guy is a piece of shit who, did what he did and doesn't seem remorseful about it at all. So anyway, we'll see what Major League Baseball has to do, if they're actually going to have any teeth. And it will be an interesting situation because, it's you go, well, look, he's a Cy Young winner, right? And, it was a big deal and up and coming, and either you loved him or you loved to hate him before all of this came out, right? He was a guy that, we had John, you and I had our issues with him and the Mets, and he was going to sign there, and he stiffed us and blah, blah, blah. And he's very cryptic and a wise ass with his tweets and all that stuff. So he was a polarizing, but an entertaining figure and a Cy Young winner, and the kind of a guy that was good for baseball before the allegations. And the kind of a guy who, unfortunately, maybe traditionally might get sort of a pass on not necessarily beating up a woman kind of behavior, but questionable behavior. Right. You know what I mean? Some of these guys that we love to give everybody a second chance, right? Whether it's drug use or, DWI or stuff like that.
Right.
But now he's in a position where, listen, if you were a supporter of his and you're still a supporter and you go, yeah, this proves you didn't do anything and she was lying and blah, 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 that's your take and that's going to be your take. But for a lot of other people, and this is what Major League Baseball has to consider, he's not such a lovable character at all. And they're going to have to decide, well, is what he has done and the fallout, if we don't do something about it, despite the lack of criminal charges, is that going to be worse than punishing this guy for what it seems like he did? I don't know. Like he's sort of, there's always a little bit of a free pass when you're good, famous, larger than life, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
The question is Major League Baseball, how much is that, how far does that free pass extend?
Right.
And what will the backlash be if they kind of, let them off with nothing, which I don't imagine they would, or a slap on the wrist? It would be a very interesting situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I think sometimes you have to look at the reality of what is Major League Baseball capable of investigating. What information are they going to be privy to that is going to be released into, for them to be able to conduct this kind of review.
Right.
So we shall see. I mean, who knows?
Who really knows? Who really knows?
I would not be surprised if that investigation is does not get resolved before the start of the season, and B, I would not be surprised if Trevor Bauer doesn't pitch again this year.
I think those are both fair statements.
It wouldn't shock me.
And I also, having said that, I think the Los Angeles Dodgers, now that this is legally cleared, I could see them trying to move him. I really do. But we shall see. I mean, they've lost a lot of talent in especially in the starting rotation. So does that outweigh the other realities of what they were willing to sign him prior to these allegations, so the toxicity that he may bring to the team might not necessarily be an issue, but I think it's compounded now, and we shall see.
Yeah, we shall.
Maybe they could trade him to the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
fair enough. Fair enough.
Could have a couple of
Deshaun Watson's massage coordinator.
Go down there.
They have a couple of sexual
massage and relax a little bit down there.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another story. All right, well, that's a good segue into football.
There we go.
And as we begin this week, we'll wrap up top tens and these quizzes with football next week, but we'll think of an interesting one because we'll move into obviously another sports season, if you will, after that. But this week, our quiz this week to kick off football talk is best head
punt
coaches.
Returners.
Best head coaches.
Oh, coaches.
We'll do punt returners next week to wrap up the season. We'll do punt returners. No, best head coaches of all time. Little different though. Little different. Okay. I'm going to give you
Doc Gooden.
You're going to give us 11, and we've got to pick 7.
I'm going to give you 8, and you got to pick 6.
Oh my God!
All right.
Jesus
I'm going to give you 8, and you got to pick 6.
More writing.
All right. You can just write last names.
Are you serious? 8?
I'm going to give you 8. You got to pick 6.
Right.
And we're going to do something after that with them. We'll make it quick. There won't be a lot of discussion.
Shoot.
Here we go. George Halas. Paul Brown.
Now you're going way back.
Mm-hmm. Vince Lombardi. Tom Landry. Don Shula. Chuck Noll. The Tuna. That's Bill Parcells, if you're not aware.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Mr. Bill Belichick.
Belichick.
So, yeah, I wrote those 8 down, and I just couldn't take 2 off. Like, what 2 am I going to take off of this list, I could have taken off George Halas and Paul Brown because it was way back. But, to be fair, I want to get a good cross-section. So we're doing 8. So George Halas, Paul Brown, Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Don Shula, Chuck Noll, Bill Parcells, and Bill Belichick. All right. So keep 6, get rid of 2, and then we're going to do something after that. So, Pete, you want to go first? You could say no. No, I'm kidding.
I always have to go first.
Yeah, I know.
We maintain an order here.
Yes, we do.
All right. I'm going to get rid of Paul Brown because he has a really boring name.
There you go.
There you go.
That deep analysis.
And I'm going to get rid of Tom Landry.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he's a Cowboy, but I don't love his record in Super Bowls. I don't know what it is, but I don't love it.
He played in 12 championship games and won 2 Super Bowls. What was he in? 4 Super Bowls? So
He was
he's 2 and 3 in Super Bowls.
He's
Yeah.
2 and 3, and so he's doing 5 Super Bowls. Yeah.
So there we go.
And he was the only head coach the Cowboys knew until 1989 when they unceremoniously when Jerry Jones unceremoniously bought the team and fired him and hired Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
So you're
there
keeping
you
keeping Papa Bear, Vince Lombardi.
Gotta keep Vince. Don Shula's a hell of a
Shula.
coach. I hate the Dolphins, but
There you go.
not that was his only,
Yeah,
coaching.
Colts
gig
before
at all.
that. Yeah.
Chuck Noll is
No,
fucking
it's Chuck Noll.
ridiculous.
Right.
I hate the Steelers too, but I mean, he's the man.
Right.
Parcells, I got love for, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My teams.
Sure.
And Belichick's, he's great.
Yeah, and he was your head coach on your main team for
He
for
was
an
a
hour.
Head coach for at least an hour and 20 minutes, I believe
Yeah,
it was.
exactly.
I mean, all of these guys have won at least 2 Super Bowls / championships.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
This is a ridiculously impossible list.
Shula's record is 2 and 4 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Lombardi had won. How many championships did Hallis win?
Yeah, but Shula's 2 and 4 doesn't hurt me as much as Landry's.
Yeah, I get that, but Landry did lose to Shula and Knoll, right?
He did. Landry lost to both Shula and Knoll.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Hallis won tons of
6.
I'm
He
gonna
won
say 6. Yeah, I was
6.
gonna say 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right.
And how many did Brown win? I mean, Brown's almost like it's like, can you even? I mean, did they even have wasn't the ball round?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, how many teams were there back in those days?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
I mean, not to
Paul Brown had 4,
not to take away from the accomplishment, but
and Lombardi had how many?
He had 3 before the Super Bowl and 2 with the Super Bowls. He had 5, right?
Didn't Lombardi win 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah, first 2 Super Bowls.
Oh, it was the third one that he lost?
No, they never.
Oh, that's right. He won that. He just won.
He won the he won up the NFL championships before the Super Bowl was even a
I'm
thing.
thinking of the Jets. Never mind.
Yeah. And then Landry's 2 and 5. Shula's 2 and 4. Chuck Noll's 4 and 0. Bill Parcells is
2 and 0.
2 and 1.
Who did he go to the Super Bowl with?
And lose New England.
Parcells did?
Mm-hmm. 96.
Right.
He lost to the Packers.
And what is Belichick?
And Belichick.
5 and 4, 5 and
6.
3.
Well, 6 is a head coach. 2 is in
6 and 3 plus 2 with the
6 and 3 plus 2 with the Giants.
Landry's 2 and 3.
6 and 3 plus 2 and 1 as a defensive coordinator.
This is really tough.
is it tough, right?
It's very tough.
This is going to kill me to do this, but I think Tom Landry. I think Tom Landry is a better coach than Shula and Parcells.
Okay.
I'm going to have to get rid of. Holy shit, this is tough. I mean,
Sophie's choice.
I don't know. I don't really. If you get to the Super Bowl and lose, granted, I know that's hard, but
Right.
I mean, you got to put Belichick on there. You got to put Noel on there. Hollis. I mean, I don't think you could take off Hollis, Brown, and Lombardi. It's the Lombardi Trophy. I think I got to get rid of Parcells and. I'm going to keep Landry, and I'm going to get rid of Parcells and Shula.
There you go. All right.
I hate to do that, but I just think Tom Landry. I think over the course of his career, I think he was a better head coach than Bill Parcells. Not by a lot, but he played. If it wasn't for those Steelers teams, I think the Cowboys would have had another 2. I mean, we would have been talking about him having 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
Yeah.
True. There you go.
And that's not the only measure.
Right. No, I get that.
Parcells has obviously a special place in my heart because of the teams that he chose.
And I will say this: Parcells, probably out of anybody, Parcells and Belichick probably won with Belichick with the least amount of talent a
Yeah.
couple times, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that 90s Giants team that beat the Bills. Yeah, I mean, they had some guys who are Hall of Famers who are at the end of their career, but if you really go down the list of who they had on there, that was a pretty. But again, a lot of that win was Belichick.
Yeah.
The second Super Bowl win for Parcells was a lot of Belichick.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick by what I said.
All right.
All right, so you're going.
I'm gonna keep Landry.
You're
Yeah.
gonna keep Landry. So you're getting rid of. I'm not gonna go through them all.
Yep.
Pete, you're getting rid of Landry and Paul Brown.
Yep.
Tom Landry and Paul Brown. And Harry, you're getting rid of Don Shula and Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now-
Shula it was Shula or Landry.
Yeah.
That was
Tough
that was
choices.
my-
Tough choices.
I mean, this is a crazy list.
Here's the other thing: is Shula, after his early success, was a good coach, had a lot of talent, and was never able to win again. You know, the Dolphins went a long time there with a lot of talent and maybe arguably the best quarterback of his era. And he couldn't get it done.
Well, you got back to 2 Super Bowls in the,
I
in
know
the
that.
80s.
I know that.
But came up
But
against one of them, a dynasty.
Only one with Marino.
Yeah.
And it was his first year, right? Am I wrong in that? Was it our second year? Was Marino went to the Super Bowl in his first year? First year.
First year.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So,
but if he wants, you know, if any of these people want to either come out of retirement or come back from the dead, we've got room for them.
Here you go. On the Giants or on this show?
I'm on the Giants or the Jets. Yeah.
All right.
Or the Broncos.
Or the Broncos. Yeah.
Or any fill in the blank. Other than the Patriots. Yes. We have room for all of them.
All right. And on that note, you know the 6 that you picked.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one you're keeping if you got to get rid of every one of them and pick one? Who's the best coach? Who you picking? You got to pick one coach to coach your team. Can be anybody. Doesn't matter. Who's the best coach? Who's going first? Peter, Harry.
Let's Harry go first on this one.
I'm going to take Belichick, and I'll tell you, only because it's hard to sort of compare Lombardi and Brown and Hollis. I'm going to take Belichick, and I think my second choice would be Chuck Noll.
Fair enough.
I agree.
You agree with both of them?
Yep.
I just think they're both excellent game planners and can think outside of the box. They're historically have been defensive first coaches. And Chuck Noll won 4 Super Bowls with Terry Bradshaw, who I rank higher than a lot of other people. But, you know, let's be honest. Granted, he had maybe, you know,
that defense was a little
3 of the top, like those
saying.
4 defenses, or if all 4 could be in the top 10 defensive teams of all time. But yeah, Belichick just has done it so often and so dominantly that he's the GOAT. And I'm gonna take Noll second, although I'll take any of these. I mean, it's hard to scratch Lombardi from that.
Yeah, he would. If it wasn't Noel, I'd probably say Lombardi would be.
But wouldn't that be a great movie premise? Is that Lombardi is like stuck in some sort of time warp, comes back into today's NFL and has to coach, has to deal with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. That's
he would. I'm sorry, but I can see Vince Lombardi bitch slapping Aaron Rodgers.
Wouldn't that be that'd be a great film? For some reason, Vince Lombardi would be in black and white, and the rest of and I picture like maybe Al Pacino playing Vince Lombardi.
Okay, fair enough. Wasn't he the head
Rodgers
coach
sitting on the
Sunday?
bench in black and white?
And Owen Wilson will be Aaron Rodgers.
Owen Wilson.
Luke Wilson. I'm sorry, Luke Wilson.
It's a blonde Aaron Rodgers.
Well, there's wigs. There's snap-on man buns.
Snap-on man buns. There you go. Just if you were curious,
Mm-hmm. We are.
It would be very difficult to do this, but my 6 that I would pick would be the same that Pete picked: Hallis, Lombardi, Shula, Chuck Noll, Bill Parcells, and Bill Belichick. It'd be hard to leave it's hard to leave Landry out. It's hard to leave Paul Brown out. But you know, Bill Parcells, obviously, you know, it's a sentimental thing. But I mean, it's not like he's a sentimental thing, but he didn't deserve it. He's there, you know.
Yeah, he's a pretty good coach too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But as far as my number one goes, my number one would be Bill Belichick. But that would be the same. But my number two, Chuck Noll would be my number three. Actually, Lombardi would be my number two. I would do Belichick, Lombardi, then Noll.
Best dressed, definitely Tom Landry.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So, and here's the thing: we're talking about Bill Belichick, we're talking about Bill Parcells, we're talking about Vince Lombardi, we're talking about Tom Landry. What do these four gentlemen have in common?
They were all. They all came from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree.
Of course,
They were all defensive coordinators.
They were all
no, not necessarily.
Vince Lombardi was an offensive coordinator, but whatchamacallit, they were all Giants. They were all Vince Lombardi, and Tom Landry was the offensive and defensive coordinator for the 56 Giants, and for the next several seasons after that.
They all have Turnpike rest stops named after them.
That's
do.
Right. They do.
Do they? Which it's just Lombardi, right? Yeah.
Lombardi's the only one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And of course, the Garden State Parkway just renamed the Cheesequake Rest Area. It's no longer the Cheesequake Rest Area. It is the John Bon Jovi Rest Area now.
Oh, Cheesequake!
From Cheesequake to cheesecake.
Did they replace the?
There's a guitar hanging over every
Spider-Man
entrance.
on the roof with a Bon Jovi.
No, when you get out of your car, he comes flying out on a cable and teabags you as you're going into the restaurant.
Oh my God.
Living on a prayer. That's the last thing I want to hear in any rest stop is Bon Jovi.
We got about 6 opens so far, and we've only been going for 51 minutes. I guess this is a good show for show opens. There.
Yeah, George Clinton is from New Jersey, but everybody think. I mean, let's hope at least Bruce remains number one. Even though I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, but let's hope at least he remains number one. And when people think of New Jersey and not Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do. So they're from the same county. Look at the top.
It's not the Tico Torres Turnpike yet.
It's not the Tico Torres Turnpike. Yeah, that's in the works. It's been submitted. It's been submitted by Senator Sambora.
That's right. The Alex John such and stuff sipping jug.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Remember, folks. I'm waiting for the Danzig rest area. That's what I'm waiting for.
All right. Well, on that note, let's get into some talk here. All right. You guys hear any new Brian Flores talk? We don't want to get into it. We talked an hour on Brian Flores last week.
Well, Roger Goodell said, let me see. I think there's a quote here. Hold on.
I thought Flores was going to get the job in Houston. Maybe he doesn't want it.
Well, now, who is the guy that got a job
I heard Brian Flores was taking over for Whoopi Goldberg on The View.
Well, she's been suspended, so he's going to fill in for her while she's out.
Who's the guy that got who's the latest guy to get a head coaching job?
Jaguars, Doug Peterson?
The one before
Lovie
that.
Smith?
Miami Dolphins? Miami's going to hire Flores back.
Didn't Lovie Smith get a job?
Lovie Smith got the job in Houston.
Yeah, that's the latest hire.
Yeah.
All right, what was the one right before that? The guy who's multiracial.
Multiracial.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh well.
I don't
know. Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel. Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of. Well, you didn't say his name.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Who's the guy who got hired? Miami Dolphins.
The Mike McDaniel's hired Miami Dolphin.
Yeah, so he's multiracial.
Right.
And Lovie Smith is black.
Right.
So
Mike Tomlin is still black.
Right. So the league is at least a little bit more racially diverse. Goodell
was just a week ago.
Goodell said, here's the quote, what we're going to do is step back and look at everything we're doing today, reevaluate that, everything from looking at the Rooney Rule and what changes should be made with that, or should it be removed, as some people have suggested. All of those things are part of that. We're going to talk to other people, have independent people come in and look and help us evaluate, because sometimes it's hard to evaluate your own policies and procedures and blah, 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 and make sure an opportunity for error, blah, blah, inclusive league and blah, blah, outcomes, blah, blah, blah.
Well, the
A whole lot
halftime
of
the halftime show is 98% black. So
Yeah, so they're really moving forward
Well,
with
there you
that.
go. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. What does anyone have any confidence that the NFL can actually deal with this problem in any sort of effective way?
I don't know.
What do they do?
I really don't know.
And how long does this stepping back and looking and reevaluating? I mean, do you really need to reevaluate whether the Rooney Rule works or not? It obviously does not.
Mhm.
So what do you need to step back? It's just bullshit. We're going to buy ourselves some time. This is, a congressional committee. Well, we're going to form a committee and we're going to look at, this and that. And then maybe something happens, a year when we're done reevaluating.
There you go.
Bunch of nonsense.
Maybe they should have a filibuster.
Maybe.
well,
Maybe.
Maybe.
Now,
Yeah.
of course, listen, they also
They also.
issued a statement the day the lawsuit was filed saying the allegations were without merit. So,
yeah. Well,
if the allegations that you guys aren't doing anything were without merit, what do you need to step back and reevaluate for?
True story.
It's
Very true
pretty
story.
obvious that there is some merit to that
Right.
lawsuit. Now, I know he can't come out and say that,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
I think it goes back to there. I think there is a big difference in coaching in the NFL versus coaching in, let's say, Major League Baseball or certainly the NBA.
Mhm.
There's far more ex-players represented in the head coaching and assistant coaching jobs throughout those two sports than there are in the NFL. The NFL is made up of a lot of guys who have not played a lot, at least, or some not at all on the professional level. And I think that's needs to be part of this. Like, why is that? I mean, I realize we know who the ex-players have been, but the first black coach in the NBA was a player coach who won the first and second year he was the coach. He won an NBA championship.
Right.
So I think that's how it's going to change, is if there's more growth in the player ranks to becoming coaches. And I think it gets overlooked because it hasn't always been as successful as some owners want it to be in the past. But if you look at it, if you're going back, I mean, Art Shell certainly did, a good job as that. These are the kind of, offensive linemen, guys who see the game from a different perspective and can relate to the players more.
Right.
I think that's part of the problem, is that I feel like the guys who are head coaches in the NFL are like executives at Microsoft. You know what I mean? It's a different mentality. And I'm not sure it has to be that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure it has to be that way.
Yeah.
I'm not-
I mean, do you not think that there's been just a glaring lack of ex-players in the head coaching ranks?
Yeah, no, I do. I definitely do. But I mean, there's got to be a reason for that, right? I mean,
Well,
do they?
Is it because the players think they're not going to get a chance, or they're going to be scrutinized too much, or they just?
No, I think they're done. They're done playing football. I mean, it's the toughest. It's the toughest on their bodies and recovery and everything else of any of the sports. And
I don't think that's necessarily it.
Well,
I do think that's part of
there's-
it.
Yeah, there's there's
Larry
got to be a reason for
Bird
it.
used
I'm
to-
sure that's not like there's a bunch of
Right.
people, like there's a bunch of ex-players, regardless of race. There's a bunch of ex-players that are saying, hey, as soon as I'm done, I want to get into coaching, and they're shunned away. You can't. We don't want you. I don't think that's the
no,
case.
aren't
There's
the-
an inherent reason that they're not.
But I mean, I think
I think it's more of a stepping stone to get into broadcasting and everything else from being an ex-player,
Maybe it's
and
not
an
lucrative.
analyst and
I don't
everything
know.
else, than to get into coaching. Because you know what? I mean, you're done playing, right? You've made a lot of money playing.
Well-
hopefully, essentially, I mean, for the most part, players that would be at the level that would want to go on to coaching, for the most part, some of them not. In fact, some of the players you do see going on to coaching aren't the big names. They're the
Same
ones
thing
that
in
did
other
make a lot of
sports.
money.
Same thing in other sports.
Right.
Look at Danny Ainge.
Right.
But my argument goes exactly against what you have to say, because there's so many players who only played 3, 4, 5 years, where in baseball they were able to get 10, 12 years out of there, or in basketball they were able to string along a couple knee surgeries and get another contract. Like Larry Bird was one of the most accomplished players in the history of basketball, who had to lay down in front of the bench before he came back in the game when he came off the court, and he threw his hat in the coaching ring. I mean, I think that competitive drive to continue in the coaching ranks, maybe they're not mature enough, but I think if meaning that they're retiring younger than other sports,
Fair enough.
lot of these guys.
Right.
But I think
They're playing 3 years in the NFL. They're starting at 22. They're 25, 26 years old.
Exactly. But if you're
They're
able
not caring
to
about
get
coaching
them,
right then.
if you're able to groom them in the coaching ranks, I think it's a big question mark to me. It just seems like that is where the disconnect is with other sports, who all have greater diversity at the head of their leadership.
Here's one other thing. I'll just go ahead, get Peter.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say here's one thing that I'll just throw out there really quick. Unless you have a gift of leading men like that or women, in that respect, in any sport, in the way of coaching, if you're a 2 or 3 or 4 year player, only or 5 or something like that, and you're done, and you really didn't accomplish all too much in the game for yourself anyway, unless you have a gift of coaching and leading, you're not really going to translate well into coaching. Now, if you have a longer career and you have seen a lot more and worked with a lot more coaches and done a lot more in your career, and you have a lot of experience, that leads to coaching, because you've been there. What what has to be done to achieve what you achieved. So you can step into that and not really even have as big a gift of coaching, but still know how it works and get into coaching that way, and then groom yourself at that point or whatever. But yeah, 2, 3, 4 years, you didn't do a lot, you didn't accomplish a lot, unless you have a gift to lead and to coach.
But there's far more
you're
people
not really going to do it. It's not even in your mind.
But there's a long list of people who had 10, 12 years of excellence.
Fair enough. Yes, I agree with you that. I just meant the shorter term people that you mentioned before. That's all I was saying. But anyway,
I just there's something there. I think we, and there has been some success with this, and the whole leadership thing is sometimes, I think, a conversation that is far more. A lot of times, the best players don't necessarily have the best leadership qualities. I think a lot of times the guys who learn by being around those great players eventually become the best coaches.
right.
And some who had great careers, I think it's longevity. I think it's being given the opportunity. I think it's, hey, I know your career's cut short. Why don't you come back as an offensive line or assistant offensive line coach? Or why don't they give these folks an opportunity to grow in their system? A lot of them completely disappear from the NFL, and some of them do coach, but it's never immediately back in the NFL. And that's just, there's a big question mark there for me. I can't understand why. It makes no sense.
The thing I'd like to know is, and I'm looking at, let me just read this. Let me find the date on that. So this is, all right, this is just from the other day. It's a story from Darius Butler talking about coaches in the NFL, black coaches in the NFL. Because what I'm curious is, let's not focus just on the head coaches for a second.
No, I know that was my point.
Yeah. Don't we think the NFL has probably more former players in the coaching ranks as a whole? Or
I think
would you say it's less?
percentage wise, it's lower.
Maybe. Now here's what let me look at here's what Butler says. When you look at the NFL, it's not much different from corporate America. The workforce looks a certain way, and then you go up that ladder, blah, blah, blah. He says,
yeah, my point exactly.
He says, I knew going into it that I wouldn't get the same opportunity as Kellen Moore, who retired as a backup quarterback, and day one he was handed the quarterback's coach's job. And he says, players are 70% black, but when you look at quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators, which are the two most common stepping stone positions to become head coach, there's only 3 black quarterback coaches and 4 black offensive coordinators.
Yeah, and one of them who had both those titles is an ex-player, who was also a quarterback. So who wasn't a great player. Byron Leftwich, had unfortunate, I think, realities in his playing career. He wasn't a bad player, but he wasn't, he's not going to be on anybody's top 20 list for best quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah. And, so he's right. Sorry, go ahead.
And so he's, he was on everybody's. He's done a pretty incredible job in the positions that he's been in. I think he's right. I think that there's something there that is I think glaringly obvious, unspoken, but the dog whistle's pretty loud. And to think that, it's got to change as the NFL changes, and as those positions certainly change. I think that it has to change and translate, in the head coaching ranks as well. And it will. And maybe this rattled the cage a little bit, and hopefully it doesn't go away. But it just seems glaring to me that people are defeated already. Like you said, I know I'm not going to get it, so they don't go into it.
Yeah, he's not going to get that same opportunity. So you can have all the defensive line coaches, the strength conditioning.
I mean, Kellen Moore was does anybody remember him as a backup quarterback? Right. So that just goes opposite to what John was saying. I mean, I'm sure Kellen Moore played for 5 years in the NFL and had 8 starts.
But now here's the thing.
But he's going to be one of those gifted coaches, is what I meant.
Because he's given the opportunity.
Well, 6-1, he's still a gifted coach. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he had a ton of NFL experience, and was able to translate that into coaching. He was already somebody that could be a coach, even if he didn't even play in the NFL, because of his coaching prowess that he has. That's right. That's where I was kind of going with that.
Yeah, but I think that the point here that Butler is making is that he got the job not because of his vast experience as a player,
right,
or necessarily, I don't know what the indicators are that
he wasn't a coach before he wasn't
a coach before that. He retired, and the next day he was hired, as quarterback's coach. And it was for one reason primarily, and that's the color of his skin. But here's the thing about this: the NFL has to force this change. Like we talk about racism, as a whole, and in the country and all that, and we say, well, things are getting better, and that is true, but that doesn't mean much to the people that are still held down, right? It's better. Pat yourself on the back, white guy. It's not better for me, But here's the thing: if this is really coming from ownership, which, the ownership is more than anything else. Well, maybe not more than anything else, but primarily old white guys.
Yeah.
Maybe don't want. But here's the thing: it's going to take generations if we let that change. Right? Quick story. I will just.
There's a lot of old white guys who own baseball teams and basketball teams.
That's true, but my point is that there's less group ownership in the NFL than a lot of other sports, and usually it's the kids who take over in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So if owner X is an old white guy who doesn't want a black guy running his team, and his son is going to take over, and he runs the team until he's 80, right? So he's been running the team for decades. Well, his son is now going to take over. Well, his son has been raised that way. Kids, they live what they learn, right? Unless they get exposed and become enlightened, or however you want to say it, and they change their attitudes. But that can really take generations. And I'm very struck, and John, I imagine you would be too, because your kids are even older than mine, but I'm very impressed by my sons and their friends and my wife's niece and nephew, who are a little bit older. Her nephew's 30 now, and her niece is, I don't know, 3 or 4 years younger than that. And I've always been very impressed at how they're not willing to put up with, the crazy racist uncle, where everybody kind of goes, ha, when he says something or doesn't say anything and just hopes that he's quiet. Like,
Right.
They don't do that.
Right.
They confront and they go, hey, man, that's not cool. You can't say that stuff.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
that next generation, right? You've
I
seen
agree.
it too, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
That next generation is, but that really doesn't translate as quickly to football, because now junior owner X is going to take over the team when he's 50, right? Or 45 or whatever. And now he's going to run it for the next, 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah,
and we have,
I hear what you're saying. I hear what
the
you're saying.
NFL has to step in and force this.
I
Because
think
to wait for woke people to end up being owners and stop being prejudiced,
and
take way too long.
And the NFL is in line with the rest of corporate America. They're no different. Corporate America maybe has less diversity than the NFL.
Right.
So
but that's an indictment of corporate America.
It's an indictment of corporate America. But what I'm saying is that the NFL, I think that the other sports have traditionally always given those opportunities quicker. And I think that in both baseball and basketball, I mean, hockey is another, you can't even talk about hockey because it's the whitest sport on the planet, other than like maybe, lacrosse. But if we're talking about the three major sports, baseball and basketball, I mean, once that color barrier was broken, and baseball, I think, has had 2 color barriers, to be honest with you. I think that you've seen that diversity at a much higher level be translated to management and coaching positions at a much higher rate than diversity in the ownership. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be diversity in ownership. In fact, the NBA passed rules limiting, I think 5-6 years ago, limiting the number, raising the bar for team ownership so that you couldn't just have these names attached to certain ownership groups. So they wanted to limit the number of people that were in ownership groups, and making sure that people had a much higher ownership value in it. So I just think it's a culture, and there's still that mentality going on.
I agree. It's not going to change fast enough unless the NFL, and I don't know how the NFL does that.
Waiting for my point being very simply, waiting for an entire change in ownership is not going to change this. The ownerships,
right.
The people in ownership have to, and the GMs of these teams need to start making decisions. And that's, I think, where the first thing can happen is that having more diversity in the GMs, or that position necessarily, I think will raise this. I think you need to start pulling more from the player ranks. I really do.
Yeah. And I think that the GMs and the head coaches are more likely to become people who don't subscribe to that old mentality, that kind of racism,
Right.
and there's a lot more turnover there too, which is, one of the reasons obviously there's a carousel, right? We're seeing guys who haven't had head coaches. Nothing against Lovie Smith.
No.
And he's had success. Not that he's never had any success, but there's a name that hasn't, being kicked around again and getting a job. Another chance.
And regardless of your race, coaches are not given the leash or the time to develop a team that they used to be.
True. That's true.
I mean,
no, they're getting a year or two at a clip, and then if there's no progress, bye, see you next.
Yeah.
Yep.
But problem is, I mean, most of the time it's for good reason, but a lot of the time it's because of
they have shitty players.
Players and bad moves from the front office, and they're taking the fall for it. And there's no time. Even if there were a chance for development, it's going to take longer than they're giving them. So yeah. So anyway, all right. Yeah, I agree with all of that, and change has to come, and hopefully it will. Hopefully they'll figure something out that actually sets the wheel in motion. That
Well, that's the problem. And the NFL is, the league is the owners, and the owners of the league.
Right.
So they're, until that ownership turns over, and we get a bunch of kids who have, and listen, fortunately, kids kind of rebel against their parents a lot of times. So maybe they're going to have a handful at least of kids that are going to take over teams and go, I care. I want the best guy. I don't care what he looks like.
I think it's possible that it can change. I think you're right to your point that, it is, you are who you were brought up to be, so to speak. But a lot of times, more so now than in the past, that can change. So,
yes. But the NFL, if there's pressure put on, then younger generations are more likely
that's a different story. That's a different story than just being, becoming a product of your environment. Pressure is different than, being a product of your environment.
So. And the ownership looks like the Senate. The average age is probably 70 something.
Right.
And look, as we've seen with this country as a whole, we thought we were really making progress politically, right, as far as racism goes. And then a black guy got elected president, and all of a sudden a lot of ugliness that was underneath the turf, so to speak, started to come out.
Right.
And then Trump got elected and started blowing the dog whistles, and it got even worse. So it wasn't as good as we thought.
I was off by 1 year. The average age of NFL owner is 69.
69, yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll keep watching this, and it's going to be we'll probably be doing our
we'll be 69 by the time
our 30th anniversary show, and we'll still be talking about this.
Yeah, so maybe when
hopefully that's not the case. But
when we're that age,
you guys might be. I won't.
Anyway,
we'll just have a picture of you in the box.
That's right.
There was
I'll imitate your voice every now and then.
There was a meme out the other day. I don't know if you saw it. It was said Brian Flores says that he says I was getting $100,000 per game to throw each game, to tank each game, and then Hugh Jackson said I was getting $50,000 per game to tank each game. And then Adam Gase said, "You guys were getting paid?"
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking back to that, and I remember it was tanking for Tua, right? Wasn't that the
tanking for Tua? Yeah,
that was the battle cry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
tanking for Tua. So.
Look, I mean, in the Sixers, what did they call it? The progress, the whatever. I mean, we all knew. I mean, this goes on.
The process.
It's like this goes on. I wish the Giants had more of a process.
Well, you know what though, tanking for Tua though, you think about it. I mean, Miami was like pretty well set on having to tank all the way down to having the first pick to get Tua, right? And then of course they didn't get the first pick, but Tua fell to them.
Right.
Too bad they didn't get the first pick because I think that quarterback is a little bit better than no offense to Tua Tagovailoa, but I think that quarterback that went first.
Do you think they would have taken Burrow?
I don't know.
Probably not. They probably would have taken Tua. But anyway. All right. And then I do want to point this one other global NFL thing out. I don't know if you heard, but the NFL obviously, they play in London. They've been doing their games over there. They're bringing back Mexico this year for a game. And they're going to start something this year for at least the next 4 years.
Serbia?
No, Germany.
Yeah, Munich.
They're playing the next 4 years. They're playing they're playing a game each year for the next 4 years. 2 of them in Munich, 2 of them in Frankfurt.
Well, you'll find some diversity there.
There you go. Yeah.
The tolerance tour. Let's start it in Germany.
There you go. All right, we're really quick on the Giants. Patrick Graham last week, up and left. Yeah.
Didn't surprise me.
Boom. He's going out to
Las Vegas.
I was trying to think about an alternate name for Vegas, but in any event, he's going out there.
Sin City. He's going to Sin City.
He's going to Sin City. Thank you.
Sin City with Josh McDaniels, the most boring person in the planet.
But just up and left the Giants. I don't know whatever his reasoning was, but the Giants actually did hire the other day. They hired Wink Martindale. I'll throw his picture up right there. They hired Wink Martindale.
That's right.
He's going to be the new defensive coordinator.
He's the only defensive coordinator to wear a 4-piece leisure suit.
No, not that Wink Martindale. This Wink Martindale. There you go.
Yeah, there's some diversity.
There you go. But I'll tell you this, Don Wink Martindale, he league ranks under Wink Martindale. 2018, he had the best defense for the Ravens, and then 2019, the fourth best, and obviously, whatchamacallit, fourth best. 2020 was seventh best. So I mean, he's got.
He's fading.
He's fading.
He's
going
to fit right in with the Giants.
But listen, if you get a 9th and an 11th and maybe a
that's an
13th
improvement
out of them over the next 3 years,
that's better than they were.
Where you are now, right?
Exactly. So that's my point. You could continue to fade down that same pattern, but
until he bottoms out at where were the Giants this past year? Like
there you go.
Graham was holding his cards close to his chest. I think he was probably pissed that he wasn't offered the head coaching job. I think he was probably in on all of the Flores drama. I think that he was just waiting it out, and once he had an offer, it was a no-brainer. So, and I think it's better for Patrick Graham. I think it's better for the Giants, actually. Yeah. In that it's really hard to say, okay, yeah, you're the guy. Oh, we're gonna, even in the workforce, that's always a hard thing. I interviewed for that job, and I've been with the organization for X amount of years, but they hired somebody else,
right?
Which you could argue didn't necessarily have that much better of a resume.
Yeah. No. Well, agreed. But
having said that, I'm just so happy that maybe somebody won't be playing a zone defense under all circumstances where you could just pick apart the middle of the field for hours at a time. I mean, Patrick Graham's a good coach, but he was not a great defensive coordinator.
No. And the John Harbaugh, excuse me, said that Giants got a good coach in Martindale. Be ready for some really good schemes. You can be ready for anything because he'll throw I don't know if he used the word kitchen sink, but I'm paraphrasing. That's basically where he was going with that, and a ton of different looks. So that's a good thing for the
How
Giants.
friendly was he with Lamar Jackson? Were they pretty tight?
I think they were close. I think they hung out. They hung out.
Maybe I know it has nothing to do with his, but if you want to come over,
there you go. Bring him along.
Yeah.
Mike Kafka was hired.
Kafka. That's going to be very Kafka-esque.
It's going to be Kafka-esque, yes. Hey, he worked with Mahomes, and Dable worked with Josh Allen. So, hey, if there's anything that can be done for Daniel Jones, I can speak.
Well, I can change his name.
He can change maybe that.
We got a new quarterback. His name is Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think like saying I worked with Patrick Mahomes is kind of like saying, yeah, I was Jimi Hendrix guitar tech. He would not have been the same without
that
me.
Sound was me. That's what that was. But anyway, no, seriously though. I mean, the bottom line is, if there's any work that can be done to improve Daniel Jones, and there's more to mold, if you will. They have the right people in place to do that, or at least the opportunity to do that. Let's put it that way. I will say this though, they have to clear a little cap space, and Joe Shane has a lot to do. They need to clear like $40 million, and I'm gonna give you these really quick right now. In your opinion, who they should try to, these are the cap hits with these guys, the biggest cap hits I should say. Number 1, Leonard Williams. $27.3 million.
Wait, is this 6? We got to keep 4?
No. You can get rid of all of them if you want. Actually, there's only really one. You know what? I kind of want to keep, Big Cat, if you will, as his buddies call him, Leonard Williams. But and another one on here. But the rest of them, as far as I'm concerned, bye-bye. Number 2, James Bradbury, $21.8 million. Number 3, Kenny Galladay, $21.1 million. Another good signing, because we only had 30 wide receivers. We needed another one and give him a 4-year contract for $80-something million. Number 4, Adoree Jackson, $15.2 million. And number 5, Blake Martinez, $14.025 million. Of these, I would only keep Leonard Williams and Blake Martinez.
Well, Blake Martinez, I think, granted, he had a serious injury, and we don't know where he's at, but he was the best player on that defense, and
Sure.
and the Giants' defense suffered without him out there. Talk
Oh,
about
big time.
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as Leonard Williams, I mean, obviously the Giants invested a lot in him, and they put the franchise tag on him 2 years in a row. It's hard for me to really say how good he was this year. It's.
I think it's safe to say that he would have been better had Blake Martinez been playing.
Yeah,
because he became the focus of the defense.
I guess
at least the line.
My point is that I think his impact was far less this year than it was the first 2 years.
Agreed, definitely agreed. And I think that honestly, I think that Blake Martinez had a lot to do with that. But we'll see. But
is he a better tackle? That's at this point in his career. Is the Giants' defense
maybe
for him?
Maybe he could play offensive tackle. Maybe that'll help.
Well, maybe you just got to learn
do everything in reverse.
Do everything in reverse and upright. Yeah.
He's going to line up the opposite way, though. He's going to offense be facing the running.
I mean,
back.
look, he Williams had a
great
great
ass to the defensive line.
He had a really good 2020 season. I would say that he took more than a step back this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of things you don't see. It's hard. There's not a lot of stats for defensive players that you could just look at and categorically say, hey, but his rushes, his hits on the quarterback, all of that, his tackles were down. They were all down this year dramatically. And you just didn't feel his presence like you did in years past.
No.
So I think we talked about this when the Giants made the franchise tag, and I think we all said, yeah, smart move. You got to keep him. I don't know. I think you do. I think that's a big hit. I think it's a big number. I think you have to Martinez, I think you're going to keep because you're probably not going to be able to get a lot of movement for him, especially coming off an injury. Williams, what are you going to get? He's also maybe a chip in some trades. So who knows? Yeah. I'd like to see him still on the Giants. I'd like to see him return to form, but it's a new regime. You gotta look at every opportunity to clear the slate if you have to.
This is true. This is very true. All right. And then one other thing on the Giants, I just want to say, Xavier McKinney was on Instagram Live the other day. He actually said, I love the Giants. I hope I'm here for all of my career.
Well, everybody says that, especially in a contract year.
There you go.
As soon as he's traded, he'll be like, I love the Giants. I'd like to thank all their fans. And I'm really looking forward to a long career with the Jacksonville
I think he's got another year or two on his deal.
How long has he been on the team?
2 years.
Yeah. So he's been through some pretty
desperate
times.
He's been through 5 coaches.
And wants to stay there. I think he's lying.
Yeah.
I think he's lying.
Patrick Ewing wanted to stay with the Knicks, too. But, the Knicks had different thoughts.
Any news from Jets camp, RadioPete?
Don't care, don't know, have no idea.
Quiet silence.
That's
radio silence.
That's
RadioPete. The Jets are radio silence.
Yeah, that's fine. Less talk is better as far as I'm concerned. Just go about your business and show up to play when it's time.
They just hired Joe Klecko as their assistant head coach.
Yeah.
Which we call it. In other NFL news, again, we mentioned Doug Peterson was hired by the Jags. I do want to point out one thing. This was brought up the other day. It was on CBS Sports. Put this up. The Pittsburgh Steelers, since 1969, have had 3 coaches.
We've talked about this before.
Chuck Noll. I know. I'm getting there. Chuck Noll, 69 to 91. Bill Cowher, 92 to 06. And Mike Tomlin, 07 through present. Right?
Right.
Since 69. Okay, that's 53 years ago.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. 3 coaches. Since 2020, the Jacksonville Jaguars have had 4 head coaches. All right. Doug Marrone in 2020, Urban Meyer in 2021, Darrell Bevell as an interim in 2021, and now Doug Peterson. So, talk about maybe 2 years or so for a head coach. Yeah, not so much in Jacksonville. A lot less there. So, anyway, I just thought that was funny bringing that up. But let's discuss the coaches. Speaking of CBS, they rated them. I want your opinion on the ratings that CBS gave each of these coaching hires. So We'll start. Chicago Bears hired Matt Eberflus. He was previously the Colts defensive coordinator.
His last album is fantastic.
Yeah, no, the acoustic stuff that he did on that album was fantastic. It was amazing.
Father of mine.
Right. They gave that hire a C+.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna say them all, and then you can think about them if you want to write them down. Do whatever you need to do. But Denver Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett. He's the previously the Packers offensive coordinator.
That's got to be a B+.
3 years. They gave it a B.
Okay.
They gave it a B. Houston Texans hired Lovie Smith. His previous role was the Texans' associate head coach and defensive coordinator last year to David Culley. What do you think that rating is?
B.
They gave it a hold on, Pete.
Who is it?
Lovie Smith. Houston Texans hired Lovie Smith.
What is the rating based on? How well he'll do?
How well the hire was for
how well these writers who don't jack shit think the hire.
Lovie Smith, I would say go to a Super Bowl. I'll say C+.
They gave him a D.
D. So they gave the team a D for
they
hiring.
Gave the team a D for hiring Lovie Smith. These are all obviously.
I give Lovie Smith a D for taking that
job. The job.
Yeah,
right?
That's.
Well, he was he was already in the system.
I know.
So,
yeah.
There you go. Jacksonville Jaguars hired Doug Peterson. Previous role was the Eagles head coach 2016 through 2020. And he's replacing Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevel because they have them both listed. There you go. Anyway, thoughts on what that hire is?
They're probably going to give it an A, although I give it a C.
I'll give it a B+.
You give it a C. Harry gives it a C. You give it a.
But I bet they gave it an A.
They probably did, but
they gave it an A-.
A-, okay.
A-.
Still an A.
Oh wait, are we picking what we would give it or what we think?
At this point, we kind of pick what you'd give and what you think they give.
Okay.
I have an irrational hatred of Doug Peterson for some reason. I don't know why.
I would probably give a C-.
I hate coaches that wear visors. It's just fucking visor.
Yeah,
right.
This is the guy. What did he do? He stopped playing the game, or what did he do?
Yeah, that guy.
He tanked the last game. If the Eagles won the game, the Giants were going to the playoffs. If they lose the game, the team they're playing, Washington, is going to the playoffs. So, and I mean, typically a divisional game like that where you're playing and you have the power to keep the team you're playing out of the playoffs, you play the game. He didn't. He tanked the game.
He looks like a guy who's like.
I'm not even talking about that like bitterness from the Giants not going to the playoffs because they were 6 and friggin' 10.
It looks like a guy who wears cargo shorts after snowboarding and smokes cigars in the. It's just.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example of another name that gets batted around and rehired. Not that he's never had any success.
Right.
He's had one great year.
Okay. He won a Super Bowl.
I know.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl.
Well, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, but
okay. But again,
Doug Peterson was there. No, he made the moves. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl. Still, he's got a ring.
But he hasn't done much since then.
Hasn't done anything.
He beat a very good team in the Super Bowl too.
Yeah. One might say, a dynasty in the Super Bowl.
But anyway. Again, he's coached before and he's had success before, and we don't want to take a chance on somebody new.
Right.
So
the Las Vegas Raiders hired Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
His previous role, Patriots offensive coordinator for 10 seasons, 2012 to this past year. He's replacing obviously John Gruden and Rich Bisaccia. What would you give it, and what do you think CBS gave it?
They probably gave it an A+. Having seen McDaniel firsthand, I think it's more of a crapshoot than people think it is. Although I do think he's better suited for a head coaching job now than he was when he came to Denver.
Right. Okay. So you think they're giving it an A, and you give it a what?
I mean, I'd have to give it a B+. I bet they gave it an A though.
All right, Pete.
I agree. A. They gave it an A. I'd say B.
All right. They gave it a C+.
Really?
They gave it a C+.
Because he's not entirely white.
Josh McDaniel?
Oh,
He's
no,
not-
that's Mike McDaniel.
Josh
Sorry.
McDaniel's
Sorry, wrong guy. Wrong McDaniel. Josh McDaniel's pretty white.
He's almost translucent.
Yeah. Sorry, I got my McDaniels.
He's also wearing a
Oh,
visor,
no, what's the
which
other
I
guy?
mean,
It's not even McDaniel. It's McMichael. Is that his name?
It's McDaniel.
Oh,
It's not McDaniels. It's McDaniel.
McDaniel.
No S. Leave off
Yeah.
the last S for savings. So anyway, all right. Next up, Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel.
Oh, the other McDaniel.
The other McDaniel. He was the 49ers offensive coordinator for one season this past season, and he replaces Mr. Brian Flores. What would you give it, and what do you think CBS gave it?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
So you can ponder this deeply, Harry.
I think he's a question mark. I think he's a question mark.
Yeah.
1 year as an offensive coordinator.
I think
But-
it's a
But,
C.
however, I will tell you this though. Remember, he's part of that whole clan, if you
Man,
will,
who gives a shit?
from Mike Shanahan. He coached with Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and so forth and so on. So he does have the pedigree when it comes to coaching trees.
Yeah.
Have any of those guys really done
Yeah,
it?
but that's what we heard. That was the Joe Judge.
Well, Matt LaFleur loses in the championship game every year.
Yeah.
And,
And look, Sean McVay loses this next game, then right? What's his story going to be? Can't win the big one,
right.
right? Although he got a little.
Yeah, they also have a hell of a lot more time.
I would give it an F, and I'll say who is it that we're deciding what they gave it? Writers?
CBS Sports.
CBS Sports.
CVS, the pharmacy.
CBS, yes.
CBS
Oh,
Sports.
the Columbia Broadcasting.
CBS gave it a D. Walgreens gave it a B plus
Okay, I just want to make sure
because he's triple vaxxed.
I would be interested, actually more interested to see what CVS gives it. I would say they gave it a B plus or an A minus because he's not entirely white.
I would say they give it a C, and I would give it a C minus.
I'm going A minus, and I would give it an F.
And you gave it an F, and you're giving it a C minus, Harry.
Yeah,
They give it a B plus.
B plus.
The B plus. They give it a B plus.
isn't that what I said they could give him?
I think so, right?
Yeah, I said B and C.
B plus, A minus, same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, so yeah, they give it a B plus. Let me do this really quick here. There you go. Now, moving on to the next one. Minnesota Vikings. They hired Kevin O'Connell. He's been the Rams offensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons. And I didn't think that they could make a hire of somebody that's in the Super Bowl until after the game was over. That was
Has it officially been announced yet?
it's not. I just read. Actually, I skimmed through it and
not
halfway down,
official.
it says set to finalize his deal after the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Okay,
There
so
you
they're
Yeah.
gonna okay. So
He interviewed in the this week actually.
Right.
Yeah.
go. And he's replacing Mike Zimmer, who was the head coach for 8 seasons. What would you give it? And what do you think they gave it?
Well, I think I think it's a good. He's got great credentials. I think that he's going from one type of team to a completely different type of team.
Mm.
Although I did see Kirk Cousins in the fucking Pro Bowl. How did that happen?
somebody had to go.
Somebody
Pro
had to play.
Bowls are weaker.
He did have decent stats this year. I'm shocked that he actually got to the Pro Bowl, but he did have decent stats.
I think that they're probably going to give this an A minus, and I give it a B minus.
All right.
I'll say I think they loved this one. I think they gave it an A,
Okay.
and I will give it a B.
All right. Well, you're both along the right track. Kind of smack dab in the middle. They give it a B plus. They gave it a B plus. So, all right. Moving on to another 2. That's it.
Jesus Christ.
Well, there was 9 coaches hired this year.
Yeah.
Almost a third of the teams have a new head coach.
How about
This-
have we
this
have we gotten the old egghead yet?
We got New Orleans Saints. They hired Dennis Allen, who's been the defensive coordinator for the Saints for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And he's replacing Sean Payton, who's been the head coach for the last 16 years. What's your grade, and what do you think CBS Sports gave it?
I give it a D, and I guess CBS Sports gave it a C.
All right.
I'm gonna go. Saints defense has been okay recently, right?
Okay.
Not really, but
All right. Well, what do you tell me that for? Now I might pick more. No, I'm not gonna.
they've been
I gotta-
great.
They've been one of the best in the league the last 5 years.
They've been decent.
Defensive coordinators don't usually make great head coaches.
Yeah, you're right. Bill Belichick sucks.
Okay, I said usually. You can't take one example and say, well, that applies to everyone.
All right.
I will say they gave it a C+, and I will give it a C.
All right. Ding, 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 ding. Our first one right on the ball. They gave it a C+. They gave it a C+.
Do they
All
give
right.
reasons for their rankings? Or?
Nope. Not
All
a
right,
one.
good.
Not a one.
Well, then I'm not going to either.
No need. and one other. The New York Giants hired Brian Dable. He's been the Bills' offensive coordinator for 4 seasons, and he replaces Joe Judge. So there you go. What grade do you give it, and what grade do you think CBS Sports gave it?
I'm getting tired. I think they both gave it a B. I'm going to give it a B. I think they gave it a B.
Gotcha.
I think they gave it an A, and I'm going to give it a C.
Okay. So you're splitting the difference there. You're all right in the ballpark. They actually gave it an A-. So the two that they liked the best were Brian Dable and Doug Peterson, right? I believe. Yeah,
So
Doug
CBS
Peterson.
is racist too.
CBS likes Brian Dable and Doug Peterson. There you go. So, and they do not like the Lovie Smith hire. So, there you go. He hasn't. Here you go. Lovie Smith. They give it a D because he hasn't had a winning season as a head coach, either in college or the NFL, since 2012, posting a 43-77 record since his last playoff trip in 2010.
Well, he hasn't been a head coach for
Well, in college
years
too.
now.
He was a head coach
Yeah,
in
but I
college.
mean, when was his last year as a head coach?
I don't know. That I don't.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. Well, 43-77 as a head coach since 2010.
Yeah, so
obviously
he
he's coached in 120 games in the last 11 years.
Yeah, he would have been the best Giants head coach of the history of the last 10 years.
There you go. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I just wanted to. I wanted to go over that. That was interesting.
Great name though, best name, Lovey Smith,
Lovey.
and he's got that Papa Smurf beard going on now, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does have that long Papa Smurf beard. I was going to say Papa Smith beard. Well, it is a Papa Smith beard.
Well, it is kind of
Right.
He was the coach of the year in 2005. He
was.
He has not been a head coach since 2015.
There you go.
It's been 6 years since
There you
he's
No, I don't know if that
7 years almost.
All right.
augments his rating, the higher rating of the higher, or not.
All right.
That makes it worse, kind of in my book.
I'm going to read this to you for
He's been coaching a long time.
the Jacksonville Jaguars, winningest coaches in Jaguars history. Tom Coughlin is tied for number 1 with 68 wins. Jack Del Rio is also tied with Tom Coughlin at 68 wins in number 2 in second place. Doug Marrone is in, Gus Bradley is in third place with 24 wins. Doug Marrone is in fourth place with 23 wins. And Urban Meyer is in fifth place in Jaguars history with 2 wins.
Nice.
He's
Well,
the fifth.
they haven't been around that long.
He's the 5th winningest coach in Jaguars history.
Mhm.
So,
You know who's next on that list?
Who's next on that list?
Me.
There you go.
Tied with a bunch of guys with
Doug
0.
Marrone is number 6 on the list with 0 wins. Right. So actually, no, the guy that was it Darrell Bevell? He's number 6 on the list with 1 win,
Well, obviously they know how to tank without any sort of internal drama.
without any internal drama. Yeah, exactly. Which we call it, and then what else did I want to bring up? Oh yeah, did you see the? Well, actually, we'll talk about that in a minute. No, let's talk about that now. Screw it. Pro Bowl.
No. Next.
Did you watch any of the Pro Bowl?
No.
Nope.
I mean, you brought it up last week, Pete. What they were going to do with the spot and choose.
Yeah, how was that? How'd that work?
I had to watch, and I honestly watched a little bit more than the first quarter. I watched the first quarter. just to see what they were doing, and I was eating something, so it kind of it was kind of noise on the
You were
background.
looking down part of the time.
Pretty much. But I had to watch the whole spot and choose with the coin flip and everything else. It was a little chaotic, if you will. But nobody punted. Nobody punted. They all, because that other rule. Did you bring that up last week?
Yeah. No, it was like fourth.
You get whoever scores on a scoring play, any scoring play. Instead of kicking off, they have whoever scored had the opportunity to have a 4th and 15 at their own 25.
And if they got it, they keep the ball.
4th and 15 at their own 25, right? Yeah, 4th and 15 at their own 25. If they converted the 4th and 15, they got to keep the ball. So theoretically, if the same team kept doing that and always converted the 4th and 15, the other team would never get the ball.
Yeah, then they go like 0 for 8 or something.
They went 0 for 8. They went 0 for 8. Nobody converted the 4th. In fact,
no one
twice
make one
twice they were in the first half. There were pick sixes on the 4th and 15.
Yeah, how many times in the playoffs did we see teams go, 40 plus yards in 11 seconds?
Right.
And these guys couldn't.
And they weren't even trying, right?
There were 7 interceptions in this Pro Bowl.
7 interceptions in the Pro Bowl.
And there were touchdowns
in the first 6 minutes of the game. The AFC was up 14-7, and they ran 2 offensive plays, and they were up 14-7. So. But
so how did the spot and choose? Did they just put it on the 20
they put it on 20 and they took over? Yeah, there was no rhyme or reason to it.
It really didn't change anything.
I don't know what happened in the second half because I wasn't watching.
Yeah.
But in the first half, it was just kind of anticlimactic.
Well, guess who had the highest passer rating in that Pro Bowl?
Justin Hebert.
Stefon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs.
No,
yeah.
Well, he doesn't really count.
Well, they actually at one point lined up. Trayvon Diggs actually lined up for the NFC as a wide receiver, and Stephon Diggs lined up for the AFC as a cornerback, and they went up against each other. So they had a little fun with it. But
Kyler Murray had a pretty good game. Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins did. I mean, Russell Wilson 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, Russell Wilson didn't have a good game.
Yeah. Mac Jones started.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes.
Herbert had a good game.
Yeah, he did have a good game. But there was no tackling. There was no nothing. It was just
Mac Jones was sacked 3 times.
It was sack meant that they had him.
I know.
That was the sack. They stopped him from forward progress at that point and he had the ball down. That was a sack.
Yeah.
But did you see what J.J. Watt said?
No.
He's. Hold on. Let me get the exact phrase. Here we go. He said, "I've seen walkthroughs more intense than this game."
Well, he knew what the story was going into it,
right? So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, that was
bring it back to Hawaii.
And the AFC won. Was it 45-31 or 41-35?
41-35.
41-35. AFC won, and that's the 5th year in a row that the AFC's won. So AFC's lost the last 5. That means nothing.
So that means they don't get home field in the World Series.
They don't get home field in the World Series, exactly. So, sorry, NFC.
That's right.
There you go. On that note, though, a lot of interesting things after the game, though. What should we call it? At was it some bars or whatever, or wherever it was? I don't know. Mr. Kamara kind of screwed up, or is in the process of screwing up his NFL career.
Yeah, he had a decent game. Had a few catches. I seem to remember.
He had a couple. He had more hits after the game than he did during the game.
Then he went out and
fucked up his career.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to make of all of that. Who does that? And there's a video too. I don't know if you've seen it.
Of course, there's a video of everything.
Oh, of course.
Jinx. Unfortunately, there's a video of this right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, in any event, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just
all right. Enough downers. Let's go on to the next thing.
All right. Most receiving yards after 40 years of age. The man in first place is Jerry Rice with 2,169 receiving yards. The man in second place for most receiving yards after 40 years of age. Any guesses?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady with 6 receiving yards. Yes.
Yeah, I'll say Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. No. Jerry Rice and Tom Brady are in first and second place for most receiving yards after 40 years of age.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
I was right.
You were right, definitely. So, all right. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you. On that Tom Brady note, Dick Butkus. I don't know if you read what he tweeted the other day.
No.
Actually, Dick Butkus.
No.
Okay. Dick Butkus tweeted.
He's still alive?
He says, I think it's great that Giselle let Tom Brady retire. Hopefully, she will let him keep Rob Gronkowski in the yard. So,
Gronk says he'd like to play with Joe Burrow.
there you go. Of course. Did he really?
He did.
Oh, shit, did he?
He did.
I didn't see
wouldn't
that.
mind playing with that guy, Joe.
And half the country went, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Tom Brady's uncle?
Tom Brady's Uncle Joe. But anyway, I thought that was funny from Dick Butkus. So anyway.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's like old man sort of
Humor.
under the surface.
I get it. Well,
trying to be an asshole, succeeding, kind of funny. Yeah, it's not that funny.
Well, there was the other one. NBC Sports put it out when Tom Brady actually made it official last week. They actually put it on Thursday. In fact, hold on. Let me read it verbatim so I'm not. Hold on. It's right here. Is it? Wait a minute. I'm missing it. There it is, right here. Shit. Talk amongst yourselves while I do this. I'm missing it. Where the hell did it go? Oh, here it is.
I don't know.
Here it is. No, it's not.
Yeah. Well, we were about to get into a meaningful conversation.
We were about to get into a meaningful conversation, and I
Is this
derailed
podcast
it by,
over?
I wanted to read this because I thought it was funny, but apparently it's not going to be. So,
All right.
Screw it. I can't find it.
We'll
It's
just
not
edit.
funny.
We'll just edit this part out.
Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
NBC New York tweeted last week. This was last Thursday. They said, breaking news, Tom Brady, who lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants during his legendary 22-year NFL career, retires. So that was their announcement. That was NBC News.
That was how they put it?
That was how they know.
Nice. Nice. Well, we know where their head off.
I will say this: in the age that we are at, where it's so easy to let everybody just become a battering ram, even in moments that used to be handled with class and adulation. It's just the Brady bashing is just mind-boggling to me. It really is.
Well, it's part of that. Part of that gotcha, and it's part of the own the other side culture, and whatever.
Whatever. I'm not looking at it like that's the way it has to be. I just thought it was funny that they put it like that.
Yeah, of course.
So
That's
anyway,
typical New York reporting, because they don't have anything positive to report on right now.
Well, this is true.
Yeah,
there's another reason.
true.
There you go. Now you just hit the reason on the head. So there you go.
Yeah, we need a
There's a
feel-good
lack
story.
of New York Post backpage headlines.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let me throw a couple
Go for it.
couple of names here. Just off this name of list that I recognize, which there's probably a lot of people that I don't recognize that I should. So here's the question: who do they think is going to win? Kurt Warner. Who does he think is going to win the game?
Who fucking cares? He's going to pick the Rams.
He's going to pick the Rams. Here's his bold prediction: no TDs for Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, or Jamar Chase.
Okay.
There you go.
What are they going to win on 3 interception returns?
I don't know. Maurice Jones-Drew, who do you think he likes?
The Bengals.
The Bengals.
He likes the Rams.
Okay.
38-31, and his bold prediction is the Rams sack Joe Burrow 12 times.
Yeah, well, I mean, so
Doesn't mean the Bengals aren't going to win.
Yeah. All right.
that's just slightly over their average.
Steve Mariucci, who does he like?
Steve Mariucci likes the Rams.
Rams. Yeah, I'm going to go Rams.
Yeah, he likes the Rams. His bold prediction, Kupp and Jamar Chase each have over 150 receiving yards. It's going to be a shootout. That's about all the names that I recognize on here. Other than Cynthia Freyland, whose name I mentioned.
How about Billie
last week.
Eilish?
Something about
who does Billie Eilish like?
I don't know. Do you guys know who Nick Shook is?
Nick Shook. It's a great name. No,
Okay.
Wasn't he in Caddyshack?
I don't know.
S-H-O-O-K?
That was Chuck
Or-
Schick.
How about D'Angelo Hall?
He was an NFL player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Nick Shook?
All right.
Yeah. D'Angelo Hall. Go ahead.
Shook was a player. All
Yep.
right. Who do you think he likes?
Nick
He
Shook.
likes
He likes
well, he's
the
an
Bengals.
offensive lineman, so he's definitely going to pick the Rams.
He likes the Bengals, 28-24.
Okay.
His bold prediction: Cincinnati forces 2 second-half turnovers and storms back. Too many words.
He's his same.
Storms
He has
back
the
too many
same-
words.
He has the same prediction. Joe Burrow gets sacked 12 times,
Times.
and the Bengals win on a last-second touchdown.
They
last
storm
second
back
field
to
goal.
stun the Rams in their own building.
There you go.
All right, D'Angelo Hall.
D'Angelo Hall. He's going to be a wild card. He's going to take the Bengals, but he's going to give credit to the defensive backs of the Bengals.
John?
D'Angelo Hall is going to take the Rams.
He's going to take the Rams.
Nah.
His bold prediction: Aaron Donald has 5 sacks to break Elsie Greenwood's record in a Super Bowl.
There you
How
go.
about that? Steve Smith,
Steve Smith.
senior.
Right.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Stephen A. Smith or just Steve
He's
Smith?
Stephen A. Smith.
No, Steve Smith.
Steve Smith. Steve Smith is going to take the Rams.
John?
Steve Smith is taking the Rams, yeah.
He likes the Rams 50-42.
50 to 42.
Yeah.
So it's real big defensive battle this game is going to be.
And
for
his
you.
bold prediction is a 50 burger in the Super Bowl not bold enough? There you go.
He likes the Rams 50-42, and he's so high. He's like, take the over or take the under. Yeah.
All right, last one, David Carr.
Oh, David Carr. Who cares?
David Carr.
David Carr is going to go with Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
John?
Just be.
I'm going to
He's going
say
to stick with the AFC.
I'm going to say that I would say the Bengals, but I think there's a little nepotism going here with David Carr, and he's going to, because Joe Burrow beat his brother, he's going with the Rams.
David Carr is going with the Rams. 31-17. Here's bold prediction. OBJ has 200 receiving yards, but is overshadowed by Darnold's 4-sack performance.
There you go.
So there you go. Mostly going with the Rams. A lot of guys like the Rams.
Boy, Derek Carr was a bust, huh?
Yeah, he should have actually been a professional prognosticator instead of a quarterback.
Well, David Carr won a Super Bowl.
David Carr, I mean.
David Carr won a Super Bowl.
Not as a starter.
Well, he was Eli's backup.
He got a ring.
Well, depends on how you look at it. It's a matter of semantics,
Oh,
right?
he got a ring.
He stuck around longer.
You look at his
He-
Wikipedia page; it says Super Bowl champion.
He was with the Giants twice. I didn't realize that.
So, but in any
Bearer
event,
David Carr.
David Carr. There you go.
All right, that's all I got.
All right.
He had
yeah.
a pretty good rookie year, Carr, or not rookie year, like his last year with the Texans. He was
the
wasn't
Texans'
so-
first quarterback, right? In
Yeah.
02. Yeah.
He was their first pick. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Texans for those years, and then they went to the Giants and was Eli's backup and went to the Super Bowl and
He went to
Another ring.
Carolina before that, then the Giants, then the 49ers, and then he spent 3 years with the Giants.
Yep.
2 years with the Giants in 11 and 12. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
He's not as goofy looking as his brother.
So, he's not a bad analyst either. He's pretty good. So
I don't think I've ever heard him.
yeah, he's on one of the ESPNFL.
ESPN. he does the cornhole tournament.
Hey, that stuff's pretty exciting.
It is.
Don't knock cornhole if you haven't watched it.
Cornhole's not bad. Cornhole's fun to play. I like playing cornhole.
Yeah, but it's actually pretty exciting to watch.
Says the beer guy. You have if you didn't like cornhole, I'd be worried. Yeah. I like spending 7 hours at the brewery and having 27 testers and tasters and playing cornhole.
And then throwing some
Talking
beanbags
about which
around.
wheat the brewer used. Yeah. It goes hand in hand. You have to have at least 4 IPAs with 12% before you officially feel loose enough to play a 7-hour game of cornhole.
5. You need 5 of them. All right. On that note, okay, a couple of USFL notes. No, I'm kidding. Just joking. All right. Now, my question to you: we're doing our show on Sunday morning, at morning, afternoon, however you want to look at it, depending on where you are in the country. Afternoon in the East, morning in the West. But do we want to do our beaten by the coin for our Super Bowl pick now, or do we want to do it on Sunday? What do you think?
I think you should do it now for consistency's sake.
I think we should do it on Sunday because it's already 8:00 and this is supposed to be a quick one.
Well, it's
All
one
right.
game to pick.
That's
So
hard.
it's not
That's
going to take
difficult
long.
logic to argue with. I have to admit. No, I changed my mind.
All
2-1.
All right, so let's pick it on Sunday.
All right, fine.
We'll see. It'll give us a little more time to see who's playing, what the injury report
True
is,
story.
see if anybody gets arrested.
we got to look at the police blotter on Sunday morning.
You laugh, but how many times has that been?
Yeah.
All too often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with doing it now if you want to do it now.
Let's do it on Sunday.
No, let's do it on Sunday. Why not?
All right. So Sunday it is. We'll do beat
All
by the
right,
coin.
so good night,
It'll
folks.
give bated breath. People will be waiting.
Yeah, there we go.
There
If there's
you
anybody
go.
listening, you're welcome. We're giving you a bonus episode.
We're giving you a bonus episode on Sunday. So there
That's
you go.
right.
All right. Well, that brings us to our top 10 list tonight. And our top 10 list tonight, and I'll throw it up here right now, is, well, last week we did the top 10 Cincinnati Bengals of all time. So tonight we're doing the top 10 Los Angeles/St. Louis Rams of all time. So there you go. Haven't done them yet, so it's exciting. We'll get this done now. And, of course, in true Get On With It sports podcast fashion, we have 12. So we'll blow through them, though. So here we go. Let me pull up the stats list here so I can read appropriately. We will kick it off with number 10. We have a tie at 7 and a tie at 6. So there you go. We'll start off with number 10. Number 10 is going to be Mr. Norm Van Brocklin. Norman Mac Van Brocklin. The Dutchman was his nickname. Quarterback out of Oregon. Drafted in the 4th round of the 1949 draft by the Los Angeles Rams. Played 9 seasons for the Rams and then played 3 seasons for the Philadelphia Eagles. 2-time NFL champion, once with the Rams in 51 and once with the Eagles in 60. In fact, he retired from playing and moved right into coaching the Minnesota Vikings as their head coach within weeks of winning the NFL championship in 1960 with the Eagles. But NFL Most Valuable Player in 60. He was the first-team All-Pro. 1-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler he was. Passing yards leader in 54, completion percentage leader in 52, Burt Bell Award winner in 60. He's a member of the 50s All-Decade Team, and to this day, he still holds an NFL record, most passing yards in a game, 554. The man hasn't played in almost 60 years, in over 60 years, I should say, 62 years, and he still holds the NFL record for most passing yards in a game, 554. The way the NFL's heading, that should be beaten soon. But at the moment, it's still an NFL record. So Norm Van Brocklin, number 10 on our list tonight. All right, moving on to number 9. Number 9 is Mr. Torrey Holt. Torrey Jabbar Holt. Wide receiver out of NC State, drafted in the 1st round with the 6th pick overall in the 99 draft by the St. Louis Rams. He played 10 seasons for the Rams. And then he played a year for the Jags and a year for the Patriots, too. Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 34, 1-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL receiving yards leader, 1-time NFL receptions leader, member of the 2000s All-Decade Team. He's made the All-Rookie team as well, and he is in the College Football Hall of Fame. There you go. And I did forget to mention, I apologize, Norm Van Brocklin is in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But Torrey Holt is not. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame now. But great numbers for his career as well. There you go. Number 9, Mr. Torrey Holt. Moving on to number 8. Number 8 is going to be Mr. Orlando Pace. Orlando Lamar Pace, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Drafted in the 1st round with the number 1 pick overall in 1997 by the St. Louis Rams. Played 12 seasons for the Rams. In St. Louis, and played a season for the Bears to finish up his career. Again, Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 34, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, member of the 2000s All-Decade Team, and he is indeed in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mr. Orlando Pace, number 8. We have 2 Mr. 7s tonight.
Mr. 7?
2 Mr. 7s tonight. Our first Mr. 7 is going to be Marshall William Falk, running back out of San Diego State, drafted in the 1st round with the number 2 pick overall in the 94 draft by the Indianapolis Colts. He played 5 seasons for the Colts and then went on to play 8 seasons for the Rams. Of course, he's a Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 34. NFL MVP in the year 2000. Three-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year. NFL Rookie of the Year in 94. 3-time First-Team All-Pro. 3-time Second-Team All-Pro. 7-time Pro Bowler. NFL Rushing Touchdowns Leader in 2000. 2-time NFL Scoring Leader in 2000 and 2001. He's in the Colts Ring of Honor. His Rams number 28 is retired. Burt Bell Award winner in 2001, and he is indeed in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And I think this is the second person that is on 2 lists of ours.
I
So
think you're right.
I think he was on the Colts list as well. The first was Deion Sanders. He was on the Dallas and the Atlanta list, and now Marshall Faulk.
Well,
made it to
actually,
2.
Sanders is on 3 lists, one of which we haven't actually done on the show.
There you go.
The third one is my best friends list.
There you go. There you go. So we're going to get to that. We might get to that on Sunday, depending on how much beer we drink on the show.
Yeah, I hope not.
There you go. Anyway.
'Cause there's not 10.
It's a top
That-
3 list.
Then let's do it.
So our first Mr. 7 tonight is Marshall Faulk. And our other Mr. 7 is none other than Mr. Jackie Ray Slater, offensive tackle out of Jackson State, drafted in the 3rd round of the 76th draft by the Los Angeles Rams. Played for 20 years with the Rams.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
between Los
incredible.
Angeles and St. Louis. 20 years he played football with the Rams. One team, 20-year career as an offensive tackle. 4-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. His number 78 with the Rams is retired. Of course, he was a Bart Starr Award winner as well the year after he retired. And he is in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So our second number 7 tonight, Mr. Jackie Slater. That brings us to, we have 2 number 6s. So they're not Mr. 6. That's only reserved for 7. So our 2 6s tonight, our first 6 is Mr. Kurt Warner. Curtis Eugene Warner, to be exact. Quarterback out of Northern Iowa. Went undrafted in 1994. And then he was picked up by the Green Bay Packers. And he was a member of their practice squad for that year. Never played. Then he went to the Iowa Barnstormers for 3 seasons. Then he played with the Amsterdam Admirals for a year. And during that time, of course, after that, because it was early, it's a different part of the year. Also in 98, he got picked up by the St. Louis Rams. And he played for 6 seasons with the Rams, 98 through 03. And then he went to the Giants for a year, for 04. And then, of course, some young stud quarterback that they drafted that year kind of supplanted him as the Giants starting quarterback. So he got traded to Arizona and played for 4 seasons there. Anyway, Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 34, of course. He was the MVP of that Super Bowl. 2-time NFL MVP in 99 and in 2001. Walter Payton Man of the Year Award winner in 08. 2-time First-Team All-Pro. 4-time Pro Bowler. 2-time NFL passing touchdowns leader. 3-time NFL completion percentage leader. 2-time NFL passer rating leader. NFL passing yards leader in 01. Burt Bell Award winner. Bart Starr Award winner. He's in the Arizona Cardinals Ring of Honor. And he is, indeed, in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 6, our first number 6 tonight, Mr. Kurt Warner. Bringing us to our other number 6 is going to be Isaac Bruce. Isaac Isidore Bruce. Wide receiver out of Memphis, drafted in the 2nd round of the 94 draft. Played for 14 seasons he played for the Rams, and then he wound up his career with the 49ers for a couple of years. Super Bowl champion again in Super Bowl 34. 2nd-team All-Pro in 98, 4-time Pro Bowler, NFL receiving yards leader in 96. His Los Angeles number 80 is retired, and he is indeed in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 6, our second number 6 on our list, Mr. Isaac Bruce. All right, brings us to our top 5. Number 5 tonight's Mr. Jack Youngblood. We're going back a little bit for most of these. Jack Herbert Jackson Youngblood III. Defensive end out of Florida, drafted in the 1st round with the 20th pick in the 1971 draft. He played 14 seasons with the Los Angeles Rams. 5-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL sacks leader. Remember the 1970s All-Decade team. He's in the Rams Ring of Honor, and his number 85 is retired. And, of course, he is indeed in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 5 on our list, Mr. Jack Youngblood. Number 4, the only one of these top 5 that's not an elder statesman, if you will, Mr. Aaron Donald. I think he's playing on Sunday, isn't he?
He certainly is.
I believe he is. Defensive Aaron Charles Donald, defensive tackle, out of Pittsburgh, drafted in the first round with the 13th pick overall in the 2014 draft. He's been on the Rams since then. Still an active player. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2014. 7-time first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. Kind of hard to beat those stats since that's pretty much his entire career. He's the Deacon Jones Award winner. Foreshadowing, maybe there.
Have they picked the All Pro team for this year? Is that why it's 7 and 8 for him, or because
no, they did. They picked.
They did. Okay,
they did already. Yeah,
that's still amazing.
He's gone to every single Pro Bowl since he's been playing.
That's crazy.
He was not a first team All Pro his first year, his rookie year.
He's had 7 straight years of being a first.
7 straight years of being a first team All Pro.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I believe he already has more first team All Pro selections than any other Ram in history.
Pretty much. Again, Deacon Jones Award winner in 2018, 2010's All Decade team. He made the All Rookie team in 2014, and next season he'll be a member of the 100 Sacks Club. He's got 98 sacks. I'm sure he'll get 2 at some point next year. So. And there you go. And, of course, he is not eligible for Canton yet because he's still playing. So there you go. Number 4 on our list, Mr. Aaron Donald. All right. That brings us to number 3. Number 3. Sorry about this. Laptop is annoying. Number 3 on our list tonight is Mr. Eric Dickerson. Eric Demetric Dickerson, running back out of SMU. Drafted in the first round with the 2nd pick overall in the 1983 draft. He played for 5 seasons with the Rams. And then he went to the Colts for 5 seasons. And then he went to the Raiders for a season and finished up his career in Atlanta for a season. So there you go. Had an 11-year career, but played for 5 of them with the Rams. Really good numbers, though. Offensive Player of the Year in 86, Offensive Rookie of the Year in 83, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time NFL rushing yards leader, NFL rushing touchdowns leader, member of the NFL 1980s All-Decade team, member of the 100th anniversary team. His Los Angeles Rams number 29 is retired, and, of course, he's in the Indianapolis Colts Ring of Honor as well. 2,105 rushing yards in a season with a member of the Rams. He's got 1,808 rushing yards in his rookie season. Rookie season, he was less than 200 yards away from a 2,000-yard rushing season. And he had 248 rushing yards in a playoff game as well.
Was he the first guy to rush for 2,000 yards since OJ?
Yes, I believe so.
I think
because Emmett did it after that.
Yeah, the thing too with Dickerson is that yes, he played technically. He only played, I think, 2 games as 5th. So in 4 years with the Rams, okay, in 4 years, he had 7,245 yards rushing.
He had more than half of the yards that he had for his entire career in 4 years.
56 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I usually don't interject in these lists, but the reason why Dickerson's on this is, even though really 4 years with the Rams, not a long time, is that I can count on one hand in my lifetime the number of running backs that were just mind-boggling and totally captured the league when they came into it. Well, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, those 2 numbers, that 1,808 rushing yards in his rookie season was in 83. Yeah. The 2,105 rushing yards
was the next year.
Was the next year in 84. Yeah. And so in 2 seasons, he rushed for just shy of 4,000 yards.
And he missed 2 games the next year and still had 1,234
Right.
yards, which is his worst season with the Rams. And then the next year he came back and had 1821.
Yeah, it's amazing, and his and those two numbers too are still records. The rookie rushing yards in a rookie season, that's an NFL record, and the 2,105 rushing yards in a season, that's an NFL record as well. Still,
Yeah, I think any of the other 2000s are less than 2,100, if I remember.
they're
correctly.
under 2,100. Yeah, they're just over 2,000.
Right.
So,
Like 2015 or 2000,
Yeah,
something like that. So yeah, and he was just crazy. I just remember, sort of an unusual back to watch too.
Very unorthodox. Tall,
upright, ran upright.
very tall. I think he was 6'3".
6'3", yeah.
Very upright and kind of waited around for the hole to open.
Yeah.
You
mean he had patience?
He did have patience.
Yeah. But he had a great mixture or piles, in fact, of shiftiness.
Absolutely.
And he could be punishing because of his size.
If
he couldn't get around you, then he was going to try and go through you, and often did.
He was incredible. He was a unique athlete. I don't really, you could talk about the Barry Sanders, who was, you look at people like Emmitt Smith, who had some similarities. To me, there was nobody really like Eric Dickerson. I don't think there's really ever been anybody like him since. Yeah. He was just that unique. And I think part of his running style is what got him hurt a little bit. He kind of exposed himself a little bit more than a lot of other backs.
Yeah, he wasn't compact.
Yeah.
But he also came back from some tough injuries and still had some great years. And he was kind of a workhorse. When you think about those Rams teams, they were good, but you knew who was getting the ball.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he was on the Greatest Show on Turf where he was just the Marshall Faulk in the mix of three Hall of Fame wide receivers. No, it was Eric Dickerson, Vince Ferragamo, right? Eric Dickerson, that's your offense. It was pretty crazy.
It was very crazy.
What kind of? Let's see. He was, 83, 390 carries, 84, 379.
He had 404 in 86.
404 in 86, 388 in 88. So, he's just shy of 400 carries.
400 carries.
Yeah, three years there, and then above 400. In another one, and then then a 292 and a 314. So just around three. I mean, even 300. There were a lot of backs that were probably carrying 300 plus, but that's still punishing. It's just punishing to run that way.
Crazy.
404 carries.
Yeah.
Put it this way. Derrick Henry had 378 in 2020 and 303 in 2019.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, there you go. That's our number 3 tonight.
We love Dickerson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dickerson was just he was one of a kind.
Yes, that's for sure. He definitely was. All right. Number 3, Mr. Eric Dickerson. All right. That brings us to number 2. Number 2 tonight is Mr. Merlin Olsen. Merlin J. Olsen, to be exact.
I think our first Merlin on any list, right?
I think it's our first Merlin. I do. I think it's our first Merlin.
We didn't do top 10 Wizards?
We didn't do top 10 Wizards yet. That's coming. It's coming. It's coming soon. Defensive tackle out of Utah.
He didn't play for the Wizards.
Later in his career. He's a point guard.
Power forward.
Yeah. Played for the Arthurs.
Defensive tackle out of Utah State, drafted in the first round, pick number 3 overall in the 62 draft by the Los Angeles Rams. Played 15 seasons with the Rams. That was his entire career. 5-time first-team All-Pro, 5-time second-team All-Pro, 14-time Pro Bowler. Played 15 seasons, and he was a 14-time Pro Bowler. So, he was in the Pro Bowl every year of his career except his last year before he retired.
Yeah.
NFL Rookie of the Year in 62. Member of the 60s All-Decade Team, member of the 70s All-Decade Team, member of the 75th Anniversary Team, member of the 100th Anniversary Team. His number 74 is retired. He's a Burt Bell Award winner as well. And he is indeed in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Merlin J. Olsen, number 2 on our list tonight. And he acted too, I think, a little bit.
Best TV career for a former NFLer?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. OJ. OJ was more movies.
There you go.
Well, he was on TV a lot in the 90s, but he wasn't getting paid for it.
Yeah, it was not unscripted work.
He won a Cable Ace Award for his portrayal called The Glove Doesn't Fit.
He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, Cable Ace Award, yeah.
Remember that time he played a killer who murdered his wife and her friend, and then
he played an innocent. He played an
right.
He was erroneously
That's right.
accused of So anyway, but those 14 Pro Bowls, he whatchamacallit, the only other players to match the 14 Pro Bowlers were former offensive lineman Bruce Matthews, former tight end Tony Gonzalez, and former quarterback Peyton Manning. Were the only other ones.
Which is incredible for all of them, especially that Manning. Jesus.
The only NFL player to have played in more Pro Bowls.
Than who?
Been
than
chosen, been played more times in the Pro Bowl, chosen 15 times than Merlin Olsen, or for that matter, Bruce Matthews, Tony Gonzalez, and Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Brady.
There you go, Tom Brady. Yeah. There you go. But anyway, number 2 on our list tonight, Mr. Merlin Olsen. And that brings us to number 1 on our list tonight. And, of course, it was foreshadowed earlier, Mr. Deacon Jones. David D. Deacon Jones. Defensive end out of Mississippi Valley State. Actually went to South Carolina State first, then went to Mississippi Valley State. He was picked in the 14th round with the 186th pick in the 1961 draft. He played for 11 seasons with the Rams. Then he went to the Chargers for a couple seasons and finished up his career with the Redskins for a season. He was a 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time First-Team All-Pro, 3-time Second-Team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 5-time NFL sacks leader, member of the 60s All-Decade Team, the 75th Anniversary Team, the 100th Anniversary Team. His number 75 is retired by the Rams, and an unofficial NFL record. He has the most seasons leading the league in sacks with 5 seasons. It's an unofficial one because they didn't count sacks as a stat when he played.
Sure.
Yeah. And, of course, he is indeed in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There you go. Number 1 on our list tonight, Mr. Deacon Jones. Have anything to say about Mr. Deacon Jones, do you, gentlemen?
He was pretty good.
Well, I mean, the thing I would say is that if you think about the Rams, I think anybody who's maybe younger than us or even our age, you think about all of the offensive weapons, from the Dickersons on to the Super Bowl years. But just think about their ring of honor. Their starting defensive line would be Aaron Donald, Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, and Jack Youngblood.
Fair enough.
If you go to a 4-3, that's pretty damn impressive. And, this might be foreshadowing what's coming up with old balls, but they also had some really incredible offense. I mean, when you got Jackie Slater and Orlando Pace as your tackles, we didn't even talk about Riley Matheson, who was a 5-time, he played guard back in the 40s, the 40s before them, but was still, an incredible 5-time first-team All-Pro. And then, they've had some incredible linemen over the years that I think you kind of forget about. And pretty impressive history with this team. When you dug into it, it was a lot harder to pick 10 guys this week than it has been in weeks past.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly difficult list.
Well, and the one interesting thing too with the Dickerson and then somebody like Marshall Faulk is, you had the kind of opposite where it was the Rams Colts connection,
right.
And if you look at their numbers, Dickerson did it in far fewer years, but their numbers are almost exactly the same. Dickerson had more touchdowns, but their rushing yards, I think, are within like 50 yards of each other. it's pretty spectacular. Of course, you know those teams they went to 2 Super Bowls, right? In the Greatest Show on Turf and won one.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
lost
They
to
lost
they lost to
right?
Mr. Brady in his first.
And that, I think people forget how that was pretty big upset when New England beat the Rams in that.
It was a big upset.
That was a big upset.
Yep.
Big upset. That team was probably more stacked than the team that won.
Mm-hmm.
Because they added some parts and pieces there. I mean, they were a really, really talented offensive team, the Rams in those years. I mean, I think people forget about that it was a small window, but that I think people forget about those Rams years and the numbers and the yardage that they were piling up.
I know, it's crazy. But Deacon Jones, you mentioned Merlin Olsen, TV career and all of that. Deacon Jones did appear on a TV show.
And a bunch of beer commercials.
And a bunch of beer commercials. Well, I mean, with this right here, there you go.
Yeah.
He was on The Odd Couple with the multiplayer right there. So
Did he do light beer commercials too?
he did. He did light beer, light.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right.
Well, they were in LA during those years, right? Or were they in St. Louis?
No, they were in LA. They went to St. Louis. They went to St.
Louis
in the mid '90s, and they went back to LA like 8 years ago.
That was part of the reason. They were there at a time when LA was, a big spot to do all that stuff, and they were in the right place at the right time. Merlin Olsen is, Deacon Jones gets ranked ahead of him on most people's list. It was a toss up for me, but Merlin Olsen's a name that gets forgotten. I mean, it's just impressive. He had an incredible career.
There you go. But they all did. They all did. This list was. It's funny. This list was really. It was fun to do because there's been a lot of Rams, but this is one of those lists that the three of us had the same 10 names, and on occasion, we get a 10 like for each of us. We for our own list we have a tie at 10, because we can't decide who we want to put in at 10. So two of us had the number 10 and the number 9 tonight, one each, but all the other 10, the top 10, if you will, starting at 8 and up with the ties that we had. We had the same 10 names, so it was pretty ironic, but it was a good list. But anyway, that brings us to Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry, why don't you tell us who Old Balls is tonight?
Well, I sort of manipulated my list so that I could talk about this gentleman who I've selected for Old Balls because he would have been in my top 10, and he's a name that's kind of unknown.
Just missed mine too.
And we talk about Merlin Olsen having 14 Pro Bowls. Well, the person who comes in second by far, probably to be beaten by Donald in a few years, but is none other than Mr. Tom Mack, who went to 11 Pro Bowls, was a 4-time AP1 and a 4-time second team All-Pro. He was a native of Cleveland, Ohio, played college football for the University of Michigan. And he was selected with the second pick in the 1966 NFL draft and played left guard for the Rams for 13 seasons. 13 seasons, 11 Pro Bowls, and appeared in 184 consecutive games. I mean, look, I know I tend to focus on offensive linemen a lot because I think they're incredibly underrated, and it's 11 Pro Bowls in 13 seasons. I mean, he never missed a game due to injury. He appeared, like I said, in 184 consecutive games, and that's the third longest streak in Rams history behind who? Merlin Olsen and Jack Youngblood.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a 720 winning percentage in his time.
Score.
In his time with the Rams. Think about that. He had a 1-loss record during his years with the Rams of 129, 48, and impressively 7 ties. In his 13 years with the Rams, they won their division 8 times and reached 4 NFC championship games. And, in 1973, the Rams led the NFL in scoring with 27 0.7 points per game, which doesn't sound like a lot in today's standards, but back then that was, they had a pretty. They came up against Minnesota Vikings during that time, and a bunch of other teams that kept them out of the Super Bowl. But the Rams were a pretty impressive, balanced team. He missed only one Pro Bowl appearance after his first year, the rest of his career in 1976, and his 11 invitations have earned him a third place tie with Bob Lilly and Ken Houston for the most selections all time. This guy was not on our list. But he's on there because this officially gets you on there. But he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1999. I think he's one of those guys who I think even Los Angeles, St. Louis, Cleveland Rams fans would probably be remiss in his name coming up, casually for most people. But that's an impressive career. And you look at people like Orlando Pace and Jackie Slater and Riley Matheson and Tom Mack. That's a pretty incredible history of offensive linemen that they've had as well. Anyway, this week's Old Balls, Tom Mack.
There you go. Tom Mack.
I think he's still kicking at the age of 70. I think he's like 78, 79.
Something there.
Yeah.
There you go. Old Balls this week.
Old Balls.
All right. Sounds like we're good. Do you want to talk NBA at all?
Well, all I'll say is I went to my first NBA game in over 2 years last night.
Saw that.
The Nuggets scored 83 points in the first half.
That's pretty good.
I thought they scored 83 points in the first 10 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what. The Knicks kind of mounted a little bit of a comeback. I think it was more to do with the Nuggets' lack of defense.
Right.
The Knicks are a team that's lacking an identity right now.
Mm-hmm.
At times, they drove to the lane and passed the ball pretty well, but they're a stagnant offense, man. Let me tell you something. That offense is stagnant. And the Kemba Walker experiment, Tom Thibodeau was right. I don't know what happened with Kemba in those 3 or 4 games when he came back after sitting for a month, but he is a shell of the player that he used to be. And here's my other question to you guys, and maybe because you're in the New York area. What is the fascination with Knicks fans and Obi Toppin? He is by far the most popular Knicks player. I saw more Obi Toppin shirts, and in his defense, he actually took time to sign a few before the second half started. I saw people going up to him and handing him a shirt. But the Knicks fans that were at this game were chanting Obi Toppin the entire game. What is that?
I don't know, because I don't think anybody or many, if any, from the New York metro area actually flew to Denver to go to the game last night. So I think they got to be all supplanted.
Well, there's a lot of people from New York here.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean they're Knicks fans. They're New Yorkers. Trust me.
I haven't noticed. I haven't noticed an uptick in Obi Toppin fans around.
I hear the chant though during Knicks games. I hear it at MSG, and I heard it at the Pepsi, whatever it's called now, Ball Arena last night.
Mm-hmm.
The Obi Toppin. I'll tell you what, whatever that guy's got going on, he's incredibly popular.
Maybe because he has 2 syllables in each his first and second name, so it's easy to do.
I don't know. I think it tells you.
You could do R.J. Barrett would be the same thing.
Oh, they weren't. Yeah. They weren't, and there was nobody wearing R.J. Barrett shirts or Julius Randle shirts, but there were a lot of people. I'm just telling you a fact that there's something about that guy. He's got whoever his marketing agent is or whatever it is.
It's working.
It's working.
Right.
Now it doesn't necessarily. The guy is an incredible talent, but he's raw.
Yeah,
his footwork is horrible.
It might just be like he was he their second pick in the draft that year?
First
pick. Oh,
first pick. Yeah.
So maybe people just want to see him.
R.J. Barrett was the first round draft pick.
Year before, yeah.
They weren't chanting Kevin Knox.
No, but Barrett was a consolation prize.
I think he's a like. I think there's.
Which in retrospect, we'll see how it all shakes out when it's said and done. But maybe it's better they didn't get Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I agree.
But
it would have been nice.
I mean, Toppin barely played his first year, right? So maybe they're just happy to see him out
His
there.
minutes are up a little bit. I mean, he's the Knicks defense is pretty miserable right now. There's not a lot of team defense going on. What the identity that we saw last year with the Knicks is gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that Thibodeau's lost this team a little bit. I really do.
Well, it doesn't seem like management, like Thibodeau and the front office, are on the same page.
I don't think they are because
Like,
he
they're
did
not
not want
giving-
he didn't want Cam Reddish.
No. And
He did
what's
not
the-
want Cam Reddish,
And
and they
Cam
basically Leon Rose said, sorry, you're getting him." You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Reddish played. I mean, he might not have been out last night, or he might be out again.
he
with
hasn't
COVID or
played.
something.
He hasn't played.
But he hasn't played.
And he's not the answer to there.
And RJ Barrett might have gotten hurt in garbage time last night playing, but who knows? It wasn't a great game. The Nuggets, but I'll tell you what, in that second quarter, the Nuggets' second unit dismantled the Knicks, dismantled them.
Yeah.
It was the Knicks. The Knicks
Well,
are in trouble.
all right. So let me ask you this, because you're both Knicks fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want Simmons?
Fuck no.
Okay.
Let's talk about this for a minute.
Do you? Because it looks like you're gonna. It looks like it's possible you might.
Can somebody explain to me in any universe that getting Ben Simmons in lieu of James Harden makes you excited?
It's not. They just want to get rid of James Harden.
I'm
'Cause
not
obviously
talking
he
about
wants
the
to
Nets.
leave.
I'm talking about the Knicks.
I know what you're talking about, but we're turning around on the Knicks. On the Nets.
No, I don't want Ben Simmons.
I don't want Ben
He's
Simmons.
not okay.
Now,
I want
granted,
Cam Reddish more than I want Ben Simmons.
Now, I do think I'll say this, and it's a rare team, but I think Ben Simmons is a great come in off the bench and stay in at the end if you're up player. He's Bruce Bowen on the defensive end, but he's Phyllis Diller on the offensive end. And last time I checked, you
Please set that.
stop.
I want to see that game.
You could not stop the game and make substitutes. So I don't understand the fascination with Ben Simmons. I think the Sixers are right to want him gone, not just for personality reasons, but for the fact that they don't have enough. Look, they're better with Maxey out there, and they're better with some of these other guys out there. And if they're going to lose some of those players who are playing pretty well for them right now in order to get a James Harden, I would be very cautious with that.
So let's see. Last year, now he hasn't played this year at all. So I don't know. Maybe he's making too much money for these numbers, but 14-7-7 doesn't interest you.
No,
16-8-8 the previous year.
not so much.
16-8, basically 9-8 the previous. So
Those are pretty solid Phyllis Diller
So-
numbers.
yeah.
I don't think
Now,
he's
again,
a
maybe
game
he's making
changer.
more money than those numbers are worth. But
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
that's a guy who contributes. He's 15
Contributes, but James Harden is a top 5 player in the NBA.
I'm talking about the Knicks.
Well,
Don't you guys need a star?
Ben Simmons
Ben
is going to be our
Simmons?
star, a guy who can't shoot free throws at the end of the game? No, what we need is a shooter who can D in 3. The Knicks right now need a big man. That was obvious. I mean, I'll tell you what, Taj Gibson probably played the best defense all year that I've seen against Nikola Jokic. I'm not joking. He fouled out, but he had a hell of a defensive game. He was very physical with them.
Yeah.
But he was giving up 4 inches. I mean,
Yeah, I did see some highlights, and you're right on that. And it's funny that you said that he played the best D you saw all season against Jokic, and then you said, "I'm not joking." I thought that was pretty
yes.
funny.
All right,
I'm
well,
not
no, I don't
jokering.
want. For the record, I don't want Ben Simmons either. Because
I don't want Ben Simmons. Well, Philly doesn't want Ben Simmons either. So
no,
you know,
but
it's
they only
clear.
they have a day to figure it out if
Yeah.
anybody else wants it.
Right.
Here's a
We
couple.
have less than a
teams-
day. It's 3
Here-
o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Here's a
Yeah.
couple teams that would benefit from Ben Simmons if they don't have to give up a lot for him. Okay, Phoenix, Utah, Golden State, teams that already have enough scoring where he can come in and be the clamp down defender against in the West, which has a ton of 2 and 3s who are really hard to guard. Other than that, I think Ben Simmons belongs on the Pelicans or something. I mean, I don't see him as part of a championship team. I just don't.
Well, as far as I agree 100%. As far as the Nets go, I mean, look at this. Like last night's game. I mean, I don't know if you watched it, Pete, but I mean, the Boston game, that was almost pathetic. I mean, who the hell was that team on the court playing the Celtics? I mean, that was disgusting, really. I mean, their starting five contributed total. Starting five contributed to 21 of those 91 points that they scored last night. They've lost 9 straight games.
Yep.
They've allowed an average of 120.4 points per game in the 9 games that they've lost straight. And they've moved down now from first place to 8th place.
Yep. The sooner the Brooklyn Nets realize that this experiment is not going to work, and it's never going to work with those 3 guys.
Well,
because Kyrie,
if all 3 of them were on the court every night at the same time, that's a different story. But they're not. They haven't been
going to work because
I
James
don't agree
Harden
with that.
Is too moody, and he already wants out. And I love the guy, but he's a different player now. Now his hamstring is hurt. He's going to miss the game tomorrow night. Kevin Durant can't do it by himself. And Kyrie Irving, as talented as he is, and I think he's a top 5 talent in the NBA. And I know you don't agree with it quite that high, but the guy's fucking brilliant. But you can't keep him on the court.
Look,
this is just never going to work. This is the second.
I disagree, and it has nothing. It has nothing to do with Kyrie. The Nets were a pinky toe, or a big toe, a half a big toenail away from going to the NBA Finals.
That was last year. They lost 9 in a row, and they're now 4 games over 500.
Their best players out. Their starting lineup last night was Blake Griffin, Brown, John Edwards, Kessler Edwards. Okay, from Pepperdine was starting at center.
So when does everybody come back and it's all
Patty Mills and Derek Bembry?
But only on the road. Only when Kyrie plays on the road.
No, the Nets didn't have Kyrie last year. And I'll be honest, if James Harden didn't get hurt and then came back in that last game against Milwaukee, they win. So this idea that they can't win with Durant and Harden is not true. It's definitely not true.
I think they can. But all right. Look, they can win with the 3 of them.
But they will never have.
They will never have the 3 of them healthy on the court at the same time.
That is the point that I'm making. It's never going to work out.
But they don't need all 3 of them. They need Durant and Harden. That's all they need. Or Durant and Kyrie. That's all they need. They don't need all 3.
They don't really have either one of those combinations.
Right now they don't, but they will. Durant will be back this year.
Durant will be back this year, but will Harden, last past 3:00 tomorrow afternoon?
Well,
he clearly wants out.
If the Nets, I don't know if he clearly wants out.
It's been reported.
He didn't sign up. A lot of things. He signed up to show up here, and
he signed up to show up and win last year, and then
show up and win last year. He didn't want to be the focus of anything. He's
going to go to yet another team.
He's a talented guy. He'll always get another chance until he finally doesn't. But
I think the problem with
experiment is just not going to work.
I think the problem with James Harden is that he's not in the same shape he was 2 or 3 years ago, and he's not able to do what he did. He's not able to take over a game the way he used to. So this idea that he's the same guy and has the same draw that he did when he was in Houston, I don't buy. Now I think he's a great complementary player and still a top 20 player in the NBA, but let's make no bones about it. The Nets are Kevin Durant. Everything else is secondary. And I will argue right now, I think the Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie being able to play, along with, even their 3rd and 4th and 5th best players are hurt right now. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge is out. I mean, look, the Nets lost 2 big pieces last year, and they haven't really filled those holes, even though neither of them really performed all that well in the playoffs. So Johnson's gone. Jared Allen, look what he's doing with Cleveland. I think the Nets have stiffer competition, but
Well, that's my other point.
No matter what, with a Kevin Durant, with either James Harden or Kyrie Irving, they have as good a chance as any other team in the East to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I don't see it working out.
So so let's talk about this though. So if the Nets trade, if James Harden, I don't think Philly's a better team throwing James Harden into the mix if they have to give up, Maxey or somebody else to cover this trade. I really don't. I don't.
Well, they might give up Ben Simmons.
Well, that's fine.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, well, Ben Simmons has not been part of the Sixers all year.
Right.
I think the Sixers are a better team without Ben Simmons.
Yeah, it makes a great case for Embiid as an MVP too.
Well,
I think he's
he's definitely. Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
what he's done and what Jokic has done is both.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of people that I think are in that conversation. Look, I think you got to look at Ja Morant as in that conversation. I think you got to look.
Yep.
I mean, I think somebody like Jimmy Butler's having a hell of a bounce back year. Steph Curry, I think, was hot on that until he tailed off a little bit. There's a lot of people that I think you need to look at that. Giannis is still. I mean, the same arguments you make for Embiid and Jokic, you have to make for Giannis again. So.
Well, yeah, I don't think they've been as hurt by injuries.
I think Durant is the best player in the NBA, and I think with even marginal talent around him, which the Nets have better than marginal talent, I think he makes them a contender. And maybe Harden does want to go. Look, Harden has never been happy anywhere, and he's never won anywhere.
No, and he probably never will. But I think. I don't want to say he's worn out his welcome, but maybe the Nets have worn out their welcome for him.
Let me ask you.
Look, here's the other thing. Durant is around for one more year,
right,
in his current contract. If it doesn't happen this year, right? If Kyrie is, only around for the away games, which maybe is good that they're falling. As long as they're 7-game, multi-game series are away, then they always get.
Imagine if the Nets
right now they're in play-in.
That's what I was going to say. Right now, the Lakers and Nets are in a play-in status. In fact, I don't even think the Lakers are in the play-in.
But if they hang
right
on
now,
to Harden,
the Lakers are in the play-in. Yeah,
but if they hang on to Harden and he's not happy and it doesn't get done, Kevin Durant's going to be 34 next year. Why is he going to want to stick around this team?
Where's he going to go? What's going to make him happy?
He can go to Madison Square Garden.
Go anywhere he wants. He's Kevin Durant. Somebody will take him.
But he's finally got what he always wanted. He has a team of his choice. He wanted Kyrie. He wanted Harden. He wanted Brooklyn. He left Golden State, which right now, if Durant was still on Golden State, they'd be ahead of Phoenix in standings.
Of course. But it hasn't resulted in what he wants, which is
not yet. It's been 2 years, 1 year. So this is the second year.
Yeah,
they were a toe away from going to the NBA Finals.
This is the second year, and we're in the second half of the season, and they're in the play-in.
As long as if they get into the playoffs, like I said, with Harden or Kyrie and a healthy Kevin Durant, then they have as good a chance as anybody else in the East of winning the East.
That's all well and good.
So what else?
They have to do it, but they have to do it.
They have to do it.
I am a Nets fan and therefore a pessimist, and it's not
well, and this year might not be in their cards because they have a crazy fucking point guard. They have an even crazier, whatever you call him, 2 ball hog 1 guard, and the best player in the NBA is hurt again, which is always a risk with Durant. He's always hurt.
Yeah, well, I think those 3 things are enough to keep them from ever winning with that combination. That's my point.
Of course.
There's just too much stacked against him. I don't disagree with you. One of those, with 2 of those guys healthy, any combination, any 2 of those 3, really, as long as it's Durant and one of the other 2 guys. So not any combination.
What do you think of this? Russell Westbrook for James Harden. Wouldn't that be something if Westbrook comes back, teams up with Durant again, and finally wins a championship?
Yeah, and they were kind of a point or two away from at least getting into the championship, right?
Well,
Yeah.
wait, many years ago.
Yeah, many years ago. But
I mean, as bad as Harden's game has tailed off, and look, Harden's still putting up, when he plays, putting up good numbers. There's something off with Westbrook. He's
and I mean, Harden was so great, right? We were talking last year. He was leading the league in assists, and he was being the facilitator, and everything. It was like a whole different player. And that's over now.
If I had told you, Pete, before the beginning of this season that on February 9th, the day before the trade deadline, the Nets would have the same record as the Timberwolves, what would you have said?
Yeah.
But before the injury, before Durant's injury,
You would have said, "Wow, the Timberwolves are turning it around." This is what you would have said.
Right, the Timberwolves must be doing well.
Before Durant's injury, the Nets spent the entire season in first or second. So,
yeah. And if the season had ended then,
I mean, if Steph Curry goes down for Golden State, do you expect them to? I mean, if pick any team, and their best player goes down. I mean, Durant is head or tails. They're the Nets' best player. So
yeah, but they don't. But the Nets don't have consistency from those secondary.
Of course
players.
not. And I'll tell you what the Nets also don't have. They don't have a very good coach.
No, I don't think they do. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I thought it was a mistake to hire a neophyte to begin with,
especially somebody who, throughout the history of his career, has given two shits about defense. Who comes from the lineage of what's his name, who's the worst defensive coach in the history of the NBA.
The former Knicks coach?
Yeah.
Mike
D'Antoni.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right. And you're expecting him to deal with a head case in Kyrie.
Is Kyrie the biggest head case on the Nets? That's questionable. I don't think he is.
Well, he's given you the most problems.
Has he? All I heard you complaining about was James Harden. But yeah, Kyrie.
Well, Kyrie, because he doesn't play.
He doesn't play.
And I mean, even and then you add James Harden to the mix. They go, here you go, Steve Nash. Here's a big shit pile of nut jobs and the best player in the NBA, but you're going to probably miss him for a quarter of the season because he's going to get hurt. And you're going to compete with an improved Philly and an improved.
Well, then the Nets didn't lose last night because Kyrie didn't play and Harden had a bad game. They didn't win last night because Harden's out hurt, Claxton's out hurt, Durant is out hurt, Kyrie's out because of COVID.
Right. But
what's his name?
They're not going to have enough consistency to get back into it. I mean, you can say just get into the playoffs. That's the mentality that loses.
Well, I don't think
get there and they'll be great and they'll be able to turn it on.
They not with this team. This team isn't the Nets. Blake Griffin, Brown, Edwards, Mills, and Bembry is not the Nets.
But the team that is the Nets is not going to exist enough of the time to get it done. That's
I think if they can play 10 games together, they'll compete. Now the East is tougher than it used to be.
It is.
Look, Cleveland's playing good ball. Miami's had a bounce back year. Chicago's doing everything. I mean, look, Chicago.
Yeah.
Talk about an offseason that's worked out perfectly for them. And they're playing without their second best player. Levine has not been playing.
Yeah.
Now they're in a little bit of a slump right now, but there's still a lot of basketball to go. And I still think I just have if Durant is on the court, you have a shot. And if Durant and one of those other two stars play, you have to be the favorite. I
don't think that's true anymore.
I don't think Milwaukee can pull off. I don't think Miami or Milwaukee are going to beat Durant again the way it happened last year. I think it was Milwaukee's year.
Well, look, if all things, if the injuries that are happening right now, if Harden doesn't go anywhere and all things that are happening right now injury-wise work themselves out and they kind of creep back up, I mean, they're in still right now. It's a play-in, but they're in still right now, right?
But they're only 5 games out of first place in the conference.
Right. No.
The conference is tough. It's hard.
I get that, but it's not like they're 16 and a half games out of first place and fighting for a playoff spot.
They can win 8 out of 10, and then Milwaukee can win 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, and Philly can do the same thing. In other words, you can't just go on a winning streak and automatically move up.
Maybe they're not going to get back to first, but they're going to get out of 8th. They'll go back to the 5th.
They're not going to be
something like that.
If they get healthy, they're not going to be the Nets. No one ever thought the Nets would be 1-9 in their last 10 games.
Right. So
they should be better, obviously, than Boston. They should be better than Toronto. But I just don't know if those
Boston's
guys are
Boston's playing the best basketball of their season right now.
Yeah.
They're also healthy.
I don't know if they're gonna.
They're healthy.
Yeah. So now add another team that's now gotten healthy and is better. Maybe they're not quite. Maybe they're not 8 out of 10 good for the rest of the season.
Well, that's
better, but there's a better, stronger team than they were.
That's just
another
my point.
team that the Nets have to get past.
That's my point. Like last year, they were a toe away from going to the championship series, but they did have some injuries towards the end of the season. I mean, Harden was out.
That's what I mean. That's what I said.
So maybe the injuries happening now, if they're able to get through them and everybody's at full strength towards the end of the season and they're still relevant, then obviously even if they're not in first or second place, they're still the quote unquote best team, even though they're not placed right.
And they didn't have Kyrie last year.
Right. So now you got Kyrie. So if now you're in 5th place, right? So you're playing most of your games, more games away than you're playing home.
Yeah, if you're playing away games, then you have an advantage.
You have an advantage with Kyrie, and everybody's healthy. So it might actually work to their advantage that some of the players are injured right now than later in the season.
Yeah,
now, I know we're beyond halfway, but we're not at the end of the season, so we still have more basketball.
I see what you're saying, but that's no guarantee they're not going to get hurt again.
No, well, right. Well, I mean, he's sitting at 18.
And we don't even know if Harden's really hurt. His hamstring is hurt.
Well, his feelings
really
are
hurt, or
his feelings are hurt.
I don't understand why Harden's so upset. I don't get it.
I don't know either.
When you ask him, it doesn't.
He doesn't like the.
He never said that. He said he never said that. He came out and said, "I've never once said I don't like New York."
No, I didn't say that. He doesn't like the rotations. He doesn't like the fact that Kyrie's not playing every day.
Of course.
That stuff. That's the stuff he's pissed off at.
So he said New York's okay.
Then grab Kyrie. Well, what he said about New York, he's coming from. He said he's coming from Texas. He said what he didn't like about New York was the taxes, and who can fucking blame him there?
Yeah, really.
No, that's true. No, he said it was okay because I remember the guys on the
show
radio.
me one person that lives in New York that likes the taxes.
They were joking about putting up a big billboard with James Harden. New York, it's okay. But I don't know. I think this is.
It's also James Harden. He's a weird dude.
He is, and this is not what he was expecting.
Yeah,
this is not what he came here for. He came here to win a championship, and maybe it's just a lot harder than he thought it was going to be, or maybe I'm sure he's feeling pissed at Kyrie for not pulling his weight.
He's clearly there's issues with Nash too. He hates the rotations. He's not happy with the coach either. So you can fall back on that. So
who are the Nets? Who are the Nets top 5 players?
This was before
everybody was.
This was before everybody was hurt. He was unhappy with the rotations. So
it's just not a. It's not a harmonious situation that's just waiting for everybody to get back. It's tension and friction, and a couple of wackos.
So he's going to leave again and go to another team and cause another team to have.
No, but look, he could go there and be the James Harden. He was the good James Harden that we loved.
Was he ever the good James Harden? Or was he always a pain in the ass? He was a great player on teams where he had the ball in his hand 98% of the time. Do you really think Doc Rivers wants to deal with James Harden?
They would take the James Harden that was leading the league in assists and being the right guy for the Nets.
Being the team player that he was.
Being the team player. He was fucking brilliant at it. We all commented on it. And anyone would take that James Harden.
And the James Harden who got hurt before the playoffs and in the playoffs.
And shouldn't have been back for that last
game. I agree. But if James Harden didn't get hurt, then the Nets go to the finals without Kyrie. There's not much difference. They just need Harden and Durant to be healthy. Yeah, look, if the Sixers trade Ben Simmons to the Nets in exchange for James Harden, then I want the Sixers front office to be my negotiator for everything in life.
Very true. Very true. All right. Well, we've certainly talked a lot of Nets tonight. I think that's the most we talked about Nets.
I'm just a pessimistic Net fan.
Yeah, you are.
Tired of having my heart broken, and I expect it to happen again. That's all.
Well,
That's all. Whether it's rational or not.
Well, you did go to back-to-back championships 18 years ago.
You have plenty of
right?
training to be a Nets fan. You're a Jets fan.
I know.
You're a Mets fan.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably, a St. John's fan.
No, fuck St. John's. Syracuse was my Big East team.
Well, see, so you have some experience with success there.
There you go.
But back in the heyday,
big picture of Jim Boeheim as well.
back in the heyday of the Big East, they came up short a bunch of times. But they did win with Melo, so
this is true.
One of the best college years ever.
yeah,
This is true.
ever.
Very true.
I'll tell you what, though. Looking back, one more thing on the NBA: how big was that DeMar DeRozan trade?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
I mean,
phenomenal.
Imagine when Chicago gets Zach LaVine back.
Yep.
Oh, well, there was rumblings the other day about De'Aaron Fox too.
Yeah, there's a lot of
For Julius Randle.
I mean, the CJ McCollum thing is that's got to be a placeholder, right? I mean, he's got to be in the mix for something else. Like, if not, I mean, God.
Do you make that trade? If you're Leon Rose, do you make that trade?
For who?
Fox for Randle.
For Randall?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you guys: is last year's Randall the Randall moving forward, and this year's the anomaly, or was last year's Randall the anomaly?
Look, Randall's not that different than he was last year. I just saw Julius Randle play hurt. He's playing hurt. He looked hurt last night. He looked like he's playing hurt. And Julius Randle dominated the court. And I don't think there's a big difference with Julius. I just don't think Julius Randle has enough talent around him. And Julius Randle is not and never has been a guy who you're going to be able to put the pressure on to be a number one guy on any team. He's just not that guy. But you make a great 2 or 3 if they surround him with anybody else. But Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, and whoever else the Knicks have right now, and they have a team of isolation guys who don't play defense, and that's like giving the conductor of a symphony a bunch of heavy metal or musicians who don't know classical music. I mean, it's a bad fit. It's a bad fit. The Knicks took a step backwards with their personnel changes. The Kemba, it's a horrible lineup. It just doesn't gel.
Well, will things change, and will they kind of come around, if you will, and gel a little bit more or play a little bit better when Rose comes back?
Well, Rose isn't going to be back till next year.
He's out now?
Well, he was on the sideline last night, but
I think I heard that the other day.
I don't think he's going to play.
The last I heard, he's coming back. I mean, he'll be back sometime in March, I heard.
Well, I look, Derrick Rose is a great guy. I think emotionally and leadership wise is really important to that team. But the Knicks have to give up this idea that Derrick Rose, I mean, you can't be leaning on Derrick Rose to be any sort of long-term solution. I mean, his career is not going to be going on.
No, of course not. But obviously, he's going to be, a better presence on the floor than a couple of other guys. But
but it's not going to be. It's not going to change the Knicks from a 6 game.
Well, will it be enough to get them out of 12th place and get them into 10th so they can get into a play-in? Not that they're going to go far in the playoffs, but at least they make the playoffs again. Kind of.
I don't think. I don't think they make it. And even if they do, it's like
they're not going far. They're not going anywhere. I mean, they might go as far as they went last year, being a 6th seed or 5th seed or whatever they were last year.
Right.
But
listen, Randall's a little bit different player.
Randall, I'll tell you what. Randall is I think his shooting game is better than it's ever been. He is much more of a physical presence than I think people give him credit for. The problem is when it comes time for today's playoffs in the NBA, where you cannot just battle down low and bash people around, or he's going to be having better defensive players on him all the time. He doesn't have the talent around him to lead this Knicks team. Now, Barrett's the most improved Knick, without a doubt. He's the most improved Knick. Fournier came out of the gate last night and actually had a pretty strong game.
He had a decent game last night. Yeah.
But they just don't have. They need a big man back because this team. It's not. It's more on the defensive end. There is a giant chasm in the middle of the Knicks defense when they don't have one of their two top centers there, and it's unfair to put the pressure for the Knicks' success on Taj Gibson, who again played. I think is an important part of this team, but it's not. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Randall's points per game are down 5. His field goal percentage is the lowest it's been since 2016. Rebounds are down a little bit. Assists are down a little bit.
He had a breakout year last year.
Yeah, he really did.
He had a breakout.
And
you could say the same.
This year is more
in line,
consistent with where he was in 2020 and 2019. 2019 he scored over 20 a game. So, but I mean, those are still pretty good numbers. It's not
they're good. They're good numbers.
It's not like he put up 12 points a game and then all of a sudden shot up to 24.
The Knicks
16, 21, 19.
The Knicks
previous 3 years.
The Knicks won last year because they bought into Tom Thibodeau's defense first, and they overachieved.
Yeah,
and their enthusiasm on the defensive side of the ball is gone. It's gone.
And the front office hasn't given them anybody to play defense.
No.
I mean, so obviously Kemba's not going to play much defense. Although that brief period when he was out there, points per game actually went up.
He had 3 good games when he came back, and one of them was Christmas Day on national television.
Yeah.
He missed 3 layups last night, like just layups, not uncontested layups. I think he shot 1 for 6, 1 for 7. And he is the biggest defensive liability the Knicks have had, maybe in the history of the team.
So do they figure out what they're doing wrong, or do they just blame the coach and he makes an exit?
Well, I think
Thibodeau's going to do what he's going to do. He's not going to kowtow.
No.
You give me guys like we've seen it. You give me these guys, they're not going to play because they don't fit into my system. They're not the guys that I want, and they're going to sit. Right. So eventually, he's going to lose his job over that. Right. I don't think the Knicks management's going to have an epiphany and go, crap, we've been giving Thibodeau the wrong kind of players all this time. No wonder that we're going downhill.
The Knicks need shooters and scorers. They need some. They are 27th in the league in field goal percentage, and they are 27th in the league in points scored. And they are 15th in 3-point percentage. They are not. And so take that and add to it a very big diminish on the defensive side. And I think the Knicks are lucky to be where they're at. I don't think Derrick Rose changes anything.
Right.
The Knicks need players. Now, yeah, they've made some decent, they have some interesting parts and pieces, but you can't win in the NBA with they need a star. They need somebody to come to New York who is going to say, this is my team. I'm going to play with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and maybe Evan Fournier. We're going to get, ourselves a tough-minded center and give it the best shot we possibly can. But in a league where you have Chicago with 2 or 3 stars, including some young players, and a loaded Nets team and a Sixers team with 3 or 4 young players who are really good, and a rebuilt Miami Heat team, the Knicks don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will see how all of that goes moving forward. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot more NBA after next week.
I'm not sure about that. This is a pretty long NBA stint.
This is true.
This might be the most we talk about the NBA till like the playoffs.
This was also probably the most we've talked about the NBA since the playoffs last year too.
That's right.
But
we got to get back into it because hopefully,
well,
after Joe Burrow wins the Super Bowl, we'll win football.
I don't think we need his pick on Sunday. So we already got.
I mean, I have to pick him or else I don't win. So I only have one chance, right?
Well, I'm not sure who John's going with.
I'm not sure.
Aren't I behind? And I have
no, you and I. Well, you and I are both one game behind of him.
So I can if I pick correctly, I win. If I pick incorrectly, and both of you or either of you pick correctly, we tie.
So you have to pick first.
Yeah, I guess.
I do have a bunch of. Well, we have obviously some tiebreakers.
Right.
But we'll see if you want to include. Maybe we'll do the prop bets as just a separate little mini contest.
We could do prop bets as a 7 mini contest.
Sounds good.
We can get some tiebreakers going there.
All right.
I just want to say the really quick on the NHL, the All-Star weekend last weekend. I just had to tell you this. I don't know if you saw it. Every time Tom Wilson's name was announced at the arena during NHL's All-Star weekend, it was followed immediately by a round of boos. And they got louder and louder and louder every time they announced his name. So that was pretty funny. That was pretty good. And, and Chris Kreider and Adam Fox represented the Rangers. So there you go. And, of course, they were on the Metropolitan division, and the captain of that division was Alex Ovechkin. So
he was out, right?
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That was our NHL talk.
Yeah, I think I watched about 5 or 6 minutes of the skills competition.
I think all of the Rangers' problems have everything to do with Kyrie and whether or not they can trade.
Yeah, that son of a bitch has done shit for the Rangers.
I tell you, it's just sitting out. I mean, he's, whatever. Anyway, all right. So we'll talk about the a little bit more of the Olympics next week too, as we get a little bit more into it, a little bit further in to the Winter Olympics next week. Since we're already at 3:10 now, obviously, next week's show will be dominated by the Super Bowl, obviously, but
maybe,
well, depending, not dominated, but a lot of
unless there's some weirdness going on in baseball, or the Mets get a new first base coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, baseball could resolve all their problems.
There you go.
This is true.
They could do it quietly
by Saturday, and then we'll be talking about that instead of the Super Bowl.
There you go. All right. Well, on that note, we will wrap the show up for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And, of course, all of our shows are on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Don't forget to tune in to Facebook Live and, of course, our Facebook page and, of course, our YouTube channel on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday at around noon Eastern Time. 1 o'clock we're doing, right? 1 o'clock?
Sure.
1 o'clock Eastern Time. Yeah, 11 o'clock.
Harry's going to be on at 2, but we'll be on at 1.
11 o'clock Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. For our Super Bowl Sunday spectacular, if you will. And we'll do our picks, and we'll do some prop bets, and we'll do some weird stats, and have a little fun. And we'll talk about my chili recipe. Have a beer with you, and then we'll get ready for the big game, and, we'll talk to you then. All right? Have a great one, folks. Cheers.
I have many chili questions.
I'll respond.
I hope to have them all in.
Top 10 chili ingredients.
There you go. And we'll do that.